Das ist bei Farbrengen, den habe ich selber beim Haus schon. Nicht das Bild. Ja, ich sage, aber das ist das Frucht.
Alright, das wollen wir noch even auf Chayei. Sorgen wir Chayei. Chayei, good jump to everybody.
This is a special Chayei.
Today's Yutes Kislev. It's the same Kriyas as it was in Tavkuf Nun Tes. Yom Shlishi, Tuesday, Parshas Vayihyu. This is the day when it all began, really, because before that, it wasn't here with the permanence. The Chassidus wasn't here. Chassidus Chabad wasn't as well developed and as well explained and structured as was afterwards. And not only that, whatever was there before was in danger of not lasting. And here we are today, so many years later, all in the schus of Yutes Kislev, like the Rebbe Rashab writes. So we'll start this year with the Rayim, Len and Chassidus, and then we'll move on to the Farbrengen. L'chaim. We're holding Leis Zion. If anybody needs copies, there's copies around the table. In order to understand Leis Zion, we'll have to recap the basic concepts and ideas that were discussed until now in the Maimer. So in the Maimer, we started with a pasuk, Vayihyu Chayei Meya Shana V'Esim Shana V'Sheva Shanim Shnei Chayei. The pasuk starts with the words Vayihyu Chayei. Then it enumerates all of the years of her life, and then the pasuk repeats itself, Shnei Chayei. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And the Maimer explains that the Vayihyu Chayei in the beginning of the pasuk and the Shnei Chayei at the end of the pasuk are two different concepts, are two different levels in the Aveda of Sarah Yimenu. So that's the first concept that we're going to recap, right? Vayihyu Chayei and Shnei Chayei in the end of the pasuk. The second concept is the Zohar's explanation on the life of Sarah. The Zohar says two things about the life of Sarah. The first thing the Zohar says about her life is that Sarah did something special, something unique that wasn't done before her. And because of that, she merited an elevated life, a higher type of life. And then the Zohar says a second nekuda, that life itself belonged to Sarah. This is the second concept. The idea of Zoch L'chayin Eloin is one level, and the idea of Dilah HaV'chayin, which is the second level. And the third idea that we discussed in the Maimer that's important for this place is the idea of Simcha. We started first describing the Simcha Kipsutei, that you have when a person is happy, a person has to serve the Eibishter with joy. That's why we're in this conversation in the first place. A person must serve the Eibishter with joy. And the Rebbe says that the whole idea of Vayihyu Chayei is all about serving the Eibishter with joy. However, in joy, there are three ways that it could possibly be done. One way that joy can be done is when the person feels his own joy. He feels his goodness, he feels his happiness, he feels this excitement, and therefore he's happy, and therefore he's filled with a feeling of power and a feeling of that he can go and do the things that he wants to do. That's how when we're happy. When we're sad, we cower in a corner. When we're happy, we're ready to go and conquer and do things and accomplish things and achieve. So that's the first point in simcha. However, if we have just this type of simcha, there's a big problem. A simcha that the person feels because of his goodness, because of his happiness, because of how great he feels his life is going and all of his accomplishments and all of his achievements, such a type of a simcha is in essence a simcha that's born of his own self, of his own ego, of his own existence. And when a person feels such a type of a simcha, it will lead him to feel free and loose with himself to do what he wants and how he wants it. And the problem is that since the Eibishter put us all into this world with the nefesh habahamis, right, the nefesh that the Alter Rebbe discusses in the first perek of Tanya, that has in it many rough edges, not good things, indulgence, selfishness, envy, and all the other things, revenge, all the other things that the nefesh habahamis has in it. Never mind sadness and depression. So if the person feels his own existence, his own simcha, it might lead him to also express some parts of his nefesh habahamis. And that can lead to the worst places possible. So therefore, that type of simcha cannot be used to serve the Eibishter. So what does the Rebbe say? So there's another type of a simcha. There's the simcha of gilu biraba. There's the simcha where the person controls his simcha. He wraps his simcha with a trepidation. On the inside, he's very happy. He's happy that he's a yid. He's happy with his lot in life. He's happy with his accomplishments and with his achievements. However, he doesn't let himself express it. What's expressed on the outside is a yid, is a fear of heaven. He constantly behaves in a manner that reminds him and that leads him to always keep the yoke of the Eibishter, the Malchus Shemayim, above him. So on the outside, in his day-to-day life, he cannot incorporate the simcha. He cannot incorporate the joy. The joy is relegated to a deep-seated feeling in the heart. I'm not depressed, I'm happy inside, I'm good. However, on the outside, you won't see me jumping, you won't see me ecstatic, you won't see me excited. Because if I start expressing that too much, like we said before, the nefesh habahamis might feel free and empowered to go and do its thing. That's the second type of simcha. The third type of simcha is the simcha that we discussed in last year, which is that the simcha is not born of the person's feelings of self. The simcha doesn't come because he feels how great he is. The simcha doesn't come from him being happy and satisfied with his own accomplishments, with his own achievements, in other words, in short, with his feelings of self. The simcha is not created by his own feeling of self, by his own ego. What's the simcha created? The simcha is created by the opposite, by a bittul. He's batel. He feels that he's nothing. Like we explained, what does it mean that he's nothing? Not that he doesn't have what to contribute. Not that he hasn't done many good things in his life. He has done many good things. He is doing many good things, and he'll do many more good things. There's a lot to be proud of. He has a lot of value. He brings a lot of good into this world. But is it him that's doing it? Is it his own skills? Is it his abilities that the Eibishter gave him? Is it his abilities, or is it what the Eibishter gave him? Right? We brought a mashal for this. That just like a person doesn't walk by an animal, a dog or a cat, and brag and feel himself greater. Look at my accomplishment. Look at my achievement. I walk on 2 feet, and the animal walks on 4 feet. A person doesn't take credit for it. You were born a human being. Any human being and every human being walks on 2 feet. It's not anything you can take credit for. It's not anything you can start feeling yourself as being great. So al derech zeh, everything that the person has, he understands and he appreciates. His feeling of generosity towards somebody else, his ability to organize, his organizational skills, his ability to learn, his ability to sing, his ability to draw, his ability to show compassion to somebody else. All of his abilities are all given to him by the Eibishter. He didn't create it. Just like he didn't create his ability to walk, he didn't create his ability to do anything that he has. And on the contrary, had the Eibishter given those abilities to somebody else, that person would have outdone him by far. He's convinced if the Eibishter gave his head to somebody else, that person would have learned double. if the Eibishter gave his levels of energy that he has to somebody else, the other person would have accomplished 4 times, 5 times, 10 times more than he did. So therefore he feels very humble. He doesn't feel broken. He knows his value and he knows his contribution. He knows what he does, but he doesn't bring him to a feeling of ego. And that feeling of humility actually brings him to happiness because he understands that he doesn't deserve anything. What makes us sad when we don't have something? The primary feeling of sadness comes from our disappointment. I think that I ought to have X, Y, and Z. I went to a chasana last week in a third world country. The people over there have much less than what we have. Much less than what we have. And somehow they manage to be just as happy as the people here. They live in smaller houses. Their food isn't as good. Their cars aren't as good. Their opportunities aren't as great. They're happy over there because their expectations are lower. They don't have the expectations that we have over here. Sadness comes from a disappointment. I think that I ought to be able to have $300,000, $400,000 a year in earnings, and I'm not getting it. And therefore I feel disappointed and let down and unhappy with myself. Why couldn't I earn the amount of money that I think I should? A person who has no expectations, who doesn't think of himself as anything special, and the opposite, he feels that whatever he got was given to him as a gift, not because he's deserving of it. The Eibush and his kindness gave him what he had, even though he's completely undeserving. He's constantly happy. He's always joyous. For everything that he has, he says, I'm totally undeserving of this. My children, my wife, my money, my food, anything and everything that I have, I'm not deserving. And the Eibush in his great kindness gave it to me. And that's why he's constantly in a state of happiness. So this is the third type of happiness that comes from bittul. Okay? So we'll recap the 3 points with the 3 subjects in Simcha. The first one is, it says Vayihyu Chayei, and then it says Shnei Chayei, the pasuk repeats itself. Second of all, the Zohar says there's a level of Zachsa L'chayin Eloin, and then the Zohar says there's a level of Dilah Havachayin. And thirdly, you have to serve the Eibishter with joy. But in joy, there's 3 ways it could be. The joy could be born of myself, of my own feelings of ego, and that joy has to be shut down. So the second way in joy is to wrap that joy in a feeling of trepidation and fear from the Eibishter, to keep it in check so it doesn't destroy things, so it doesn't run out of control and amok. And the third level is where the joy is born from a bittul. And the nature of the joy, the reason why the joy is here, is because I'm humble and I understand that I deserve nothing, and therefore everything that I have, I'm happy for having it. And with that introduction, we can go through the Maimer. The Maimer discusses some subjects that are deep subjects and topics in Chassidus, that it's not negea to understand them fully, and to understand them fully would take several shiurim, so we'll just read past them quickly. And this is the repetition in the pasuk. At first it says Vayihyu Chayei, and then it says again Shnei Chayei, the years of the life of Sarah. The beginning of the pasuk Vayihyu Chayei, and these were the years of Sarah. That's the first level that the Zohar discusses. That Sarah merited for a higher type of life. And the pasuk details Me'ah Shana, 100 years, V'esim Shana, and then 20 years, V'shava Shana, and then 7 years. Shekoy al kol hasfiris. Me'ah Shana and Esim Shana and Shava Shana encompass and include all of the spheres. And when he says all of the spheres, he includes the makifim. As it's explained in the Maimer, the Me'ah Shana b'chinas arich. 100 years is the level of arich. Arich is the makif hakariv. So it's above Atzilus, it's the Makif HaKarev. Like I said, we're not going to get into it over here because it would take separate shiurim for each subject. So, and it includes Arich, not only Arich, K'mishemeir, but B'chinas Atik. Me'ah Shana includes it, is a reference to the level of Arich, the way it actually includes with it, the way the level of Atik, which is the Makif Arochik, the higher level of Makif, shines within the level of Arich. So in other words, we have over here in Me'ah Shana, we have Sai Atik and Sai Arich. Therefore, it says on the one hand, it says Me'ah. However, it says Lashon Yachid, because since Atik shines in Arich, so the Me'ah that you have, the 100 that you have in Arich, is not as each one is a separate number, but rather it's Yachid, so they're all unified as one. And this unification, this oneness that's found within the numbers of 100, is even higher than the level of 1, where you don't have separation and you don't have many numbers, and therefore it's only 1. Over here you have 100, and nevertheless it's 1, because Atik shines in Arich. So Sarah's Aveda, first of all, reached the higher levels of Atik and Arich. And then she also reached the levels of Esim Shana, B'chinas Chachma Bina. Then Esim Shana is the 10 and 10 of Chachma and Bina, which they go together. Chachma and Bina are two friends that don't separate, and therefore it's Esrim Shana. Shana, again, Lashon Yachid. And then Sheva Shana Mubchina Zayin Midas. She also perfected her 7 Midas, Sheva Shanim. And over here, Midas, each Midah already stands on its own, it's separate, and therefore it's Shanim, Lashon Rabim. So this is the Shiva Shemei HaBinyan. So Sarah, in her life, she perfected and she reached the ultimate level in the levels of Meya Shana and the level of Esim Shana and the level of Sheva Shana. And because of that, she merited to Chayei Eloin, like we explained earlier in the Maimer, that you had Chava and you had Noach, and they both failed. Chava failed with the Chetei Tzadas. Noach failed by getting drunk. Vayishkar, he got drunk and not good things came out of it. Sarah came and Sarah corrected those earlier errors because in her life, she managed to achieve perfection in all the levels because she was batel, and therefore because of that, she merited to Chayei Eloin. This is what he explained earlier in the Maimer. And then the pasuk goes on to a second concept, a new idea. Shnei Chayei Sarah. After you have Vayihyu Chayei Sarah, then you have Shnei Chayei Sarah, the years of the life of Sarah. And this, the Zohar says, is the level of Dilah Havu Chaim, that life belonged to her. And the Rebbe Rashab explained in his Maimer, Shahachayim, what does it mean the life belonged to her? Shahachayim hen Dilah Gam B'murgash, that because her Simcha was bebittel, because she was completely and absolutely batel, therefore her Simcha was able to be expressed also in a revealed way. For those who weren't here in last year, these are all ideas that were discussed at length at last year. It's impossible to go through it again without making this year into a 2-hour shir, which now is not the time for it. About Kolpanim, because Sarah served the Eibishter with absolute and complete bittul, therefore she was able to actually, in a revealed way, in an experiential way, in her day-to-day life, she was able to actually also be happy, and no evil, no bad came out of it. Which in Aveda, this is the third level of Simcha that I mentioned in the introduction, which this is that the person finds himself in a state of Simcha in his day-to-day life. He actually feels joyous. He's walking around excited. He's full of life. He's full of color. He's full of excitement. He's full of energy. He's full of vigor. And nevertheless, at the same time, he's completely batel also. Like we explained earlier in the Maimer. And because Sarah combined bittul with simcha in her day-to-day life, when somebody has this behavior, reaches this level, that even her felt and experienced and expressed day-to-day life of joy and excitement and happiness and energy, that too was in a completely bittul way, which this is the unification of two opposite concepts, of two contradictory concepts. You say that Sarah was batel, and at the same time you say that she was full of life, full of color, full of vitality. How do they both go together? Somebody who's batel stands on the side, he doesn't express himself, he doesn't speak, he doesn't say anything. He hears, he listens, he takes what he's given, doesn't show any of his personality, any of his character, any of his identity. Somebody who's full of life and excitement and he's full of his own energy is the opposite of bittul. So these are two opposite and contradictory ideas. But he explained in the Maimer that the nature of Sarah's simcha was a simcha that was based on the Eibishter. It wasn't based on her own existence. It wasn't based on her own ego. It was based on what the Eibishter gave her. Because it was all based on the Eibishter, so therefore her joy was also the bittul. Her day-to-day joy, her real-life experience joy was also the bittul. So this is already to unify these two ideas, these two concepts, that already shows on a level that's higher than his chalkos. What's Ischalkus? Again, these are all pretty subtle ideas that would take a long time to discuss. What's the idea of Ischalkus? So if we try to attach Ischalkus, we'll say separateness, apartness, fragmentation. I was once in Gan Yisrael, Montreal. Yeah, what is, give a good explanation of separateness. The world is Tura de Pruda, yeah? So it's full of Ischalkus. The world is all separate, right? If you want to have a Farbrengen, you can't have a Shir. If you want to have a Shir, you can't have a Farbrengen. They're separate things. I'm a very nice guy. I'm going to try to help you. But am I going to let you take over my house? This is my house. Things are separate. Everything is separate. You come to somebody and you ask him for tzedakah, he'll give you tzedakah b'yad rechava. However, you tell him, give me a business loan. He says, okay, let me hear about the business. Tell me, is it tzedakah or is it business? If it's business, we're going to discuss it. Its merits by the parameters of business. Everything is separate. Everything is separate. I remember once I was in Gan Yisrael, Montreal, and there was some of the staff over there were behaving in a petty way. I don't remember who, it's years and years ago, but they were behaving in a petty way, in a childish way. Yeah, we'll just use some examples. For example, what do you call the guy in charge of the PA? The PA manager. You know, if you asked him, could you play the announcements a little louder? He'd say, no, PA is my thing. I know how to do it. I set it up. Could you change the music? Make different music? No, this is the best music. During sports, we play this. Everybody had their own territory. Yeah, if you wanted the coffee set up in a different place for Mishnais, or the cocoa should be, if it's put on a different part of the shul, the kitchen manager said, no, the kitchen is my thing. Anyway, so there was one guy over there, the canteen manager. He's a shliach now with a large family, a good guy. He stood a little bit above it. So here's the canteen manager, and in those days, I don't know how it is today, but in front of the canteen, so there was there was like an area like 8x4 of cement. You know, the rest was grass and sand, and this area was in cement. So every once in a while, just for the fun of it, and just to bring out the pettiness of the behavior that was going on amongst other staff members, he would give a shout, "Get off my cement!" Everybody has his own territory. Everybody has his own territory. If I'm not mistaken, the animal that causes the most deaths in Africa, that kills the most people, is not a snake, is not a lion, is not a leopard, is not a hyena. It's a hippopotamus. Very good, Moshe. The animal that kills the most people is a hippopotamus. Why?
Very territorial.
It's very territorial. It's territorial. It says, this area is my area. It declares, this part of the river is my part of the river. And when people go to wash the laundry, they still do that over there. They wash the laundry in the river. It feels threatened. It says, this is my place. It's a Ischalkus. It's my area. And it goes and charges and kills people. So it's not the danger of the animal. It's not even the will to live. Right? Why would a lion kill a person? To eat his flesh. A snake to eat him. Other animals to eat the person. It's in order to live. That's what's motivating the person. That doesn't cause so many deaths. What causes the most deaths? The territorial behavior of the hippopotamus. This is my area, you can't enter. If we want to talk about a little bit now in more haskala, and more trying to understand what is Ischalkus. So, and L'mayla Ischalkus. The difficulty isn't in understanding what's Ischalkus. The difficulty is in trying to understand, wrapping our head around this idea of L'mayla Ischalkus. So it's above my pay grade, but let's use a muscle of potential. In everything, there's potential. In other words, this is the potential to do the thing, and then there's the actual doing of the thing. For example, a person could walk. I could walk. Every one of us could walk. Is there a limitation on which direction I can walk? That I can only walk to the right or to the left? I can walk north or south? There's no limitation. I have the ability to walk. I can walk this way or that way. However, while I'm walking to the right, I can't be walking to the left at the same exact time. So L'mayla Ischalkus, at least a muscle on L'mayla Ischalkus, would be the person's ability to walk. And over there, because it's more of a spiritual type of a thing, it's just a potential. It hasn't been realized yet in actuality. So therefore, it can be many things all at once. In my ability to walk, you don't see me walking right, you don't see me walking left, and therefore my ability to walk is not limited to right or left. I can choose and I can do both of them. However, when I'm actually walking, it left the world of potential. It came down into the physical world. Now I'm walking to the right, I can't be walking to the left at the same exact time. Could use a muscle of electricity. You ever paid attention? You plug electricity into the wall. Over here, you plugged it into the wall. You have a refrigerator, it makes things cool. Over there, you have a toaster oven, it makes things hot. Over there, you have a drill, it spins. You plug a computer in, now you have a computer or a smartphone. It all comes from what? From the same energy flowing through the wire. This is again a muscle of potential where it's l'maylam hischalkos. It's not yet separated into distinct and unique things. This is this and this is that. However, when the current that's in the wires flows through, let's say the refrigerator, so it flows through I don't go through the whole seder. Those who know it better than me can help. But it flows through the wires in the magnet and in the motor. It creates a magnetic field. The magnetic field transforms the energy that was in the wires into motion, into a mechanical motion, and that is connected to a pump, and the pump compresses the gas, and when the gas gets compressed, it gets turned into cool air, or into a cold gas, and that gets transferred through a fan into the fridge. In the toaster oven, the flow of the electricity, it allows a lot of electricity to flow, but it doesn't let it flow easily. It puts up resistance, and the resistance causes the heat. So when it's in a potential state, when it's just flowing through the wire, no resistance, it's just a free flow of electricity, it's l'maylam yischalkus, so to speak. It's a muscle on l'maylam yischalkus. When it's actually plugged into an appliance or into a computer, so now it's already in the world of yischalkus. It already became actualized as a specific thing, and now a fridge cannot be a toaster oven, which cannot be a computer, which cannot be a drill. However, these are only mishalim for l'maylam yischalkus. Because in the end of the day, if you have, for example, an artist who expresses his art and he draws a painting, he's using a paintbrush and he's using paint and he's using a canvas that do not belong to him. He didn't create them. They're not part of his existence. They're separate from him. They're far from him. And therefore, once he draws a certain painting, the painting stands on its own. So he can't bring his l'maylam yischalkus into his chalkus. Masha'enkin by the Eibishter, the idea of l'maylam yischalkus permeates everything and is the true reality of everything. By me, when I have a house, yes, it's my house, but did I create the wood floors? Did I create the wood? Did I create the tree? I didn't. It's something that I acquired. Even my own children, they're my children. The connection between a father and a child is the greatest connection that there is in the world. Nevertheless, there are people on they're independent people. Their flesh wasn't created by me. So I can't bring together the l'maylam yischalkus together with the yischalkus. The only place where you can have the l'maylam yischalkus together with the yischalkus in it itself comes from the Eibishter. What's the upshot from all of this discussion? Which is really the Nakud of the Rebbe in this ice, is that Sarah, by her combining her simcha with her bittul, she uncovered a level of l'maylam yischalkus. We'll leave it at that because, like I said, it's subtle things that I find myself a little short to explain. Even though Sarah already achieved earlier in her Aveda through her bittul, she already achieved very high levels of 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. In other words, the spheres of the Makifim of Atik and Arich and the spheres of Chachma and Bina and the seven Midas. Nevertheless, even though this is a very high level of Aveda K'mubin, nevertheless, at that level of Aveda, there are three separate concepts and ideas. Masha'enkin, the end of the pasuk, where we say Shnei Chayei Sarah, these are the years of the life of Sarah. They are all equal. L'maylam yischalkus. Because Sarah was able to uncover this level that's higher than yischalkus, so therefore she was also able to have gam hamurgash ubebitul dilah habuchayim. And now the Rebbe starts bringing this down into Aveda. V'yeshleimar, the alidei inin de lahavu chayin ba'aveda, through Sarah doing the Aveda of de lahavu chayin, which the Rebbe Rashab explains, shagam hamurgesh simcha shavi iskalasu bebittul, even her felt life, her expressed and experienced life, was besimchadik, and at the same time bebittul alidei zenasa de lahavu chayin gam bepashtus. Through this, Sarah's life becomes also her own bepashtus. In other words, shachayim, her entire life and all the details of her life, hein shalah, belong to her. V'hinasis balabais alachayim. She becomes the boss and she's the owner of her life. We'll get back to that in a moment. Why? Because Sarah was able to show her joy in a revealed way, and Simcha has in it the quality that it breaks through all boundaries when a person is in a happy mood, when a person is in a happy state. He's not bothered by all the OCDs that he may have, whether imagined or real, right? A person can say, I'm not comfortable because there's not a good smell in this place. I'm not comfortable. There's music that's too loud. I can't concentrate because of this, that, or the other. A million things that bother a person. When a person is happy, really happy and excited, none of these things bother him. He doesn't even notice it. His happiness is able to turn all of those things into non-issues. It's call it kol hagdarim. It breaks through all barriers and boundaries that a person might have. Side barriers that he has from the outside, and side boundaries that he has within his own personality, with his own character. And therefore, when a person can reach that state where he's besimcha, and he's besimcha in a revealed way, because his simcha comes from his sense of bittul, from his sense of humility, of anava, then he's able to have tikberes achayim, he's able to experience life in an extremely mighty and powerful fashion. Because all of the things that constrict him, that restrain him, that bother him, and that hold him back, no longer bother him. His simcha breaks through all of them. As it's known, being in Yitzchak Shenyane Yitzchak v'simcha. The meaning of Yitzchak, like we mentioned earlier in the Maimer, is happiness and laughter. Which we say that Yitzchak has an imdinin of Gvura. Yitzchak is the spirit, corresponds to Gvura. But his Gvura is not an idea of limiting and restraining. Rather, the Gvura of Yitzchak is a Gvura of power, of might, of strength, of bringing added life. Because Sarah was besimcha, she was able to experience her entire life. And in a similar fashion to the simcha will be la'asid lava. So what does this all have to do with us? Let's see what this all has to do with us. So ma'isa avis simin lebanim is ches. Whatever the avis and the imais did is a simin for us. In other words, is a signpost, and also gives us the strength and the power to do the aveda that they did. The aveda that Sarah did is a lesson and also an empowerment to every single yid. And not only that, and it's our inheritance. In other words, we don't have to deserve it, we don't have to work on it, we don't have to earn it. It's given to us as a birthright. That every single yid has within him the ability to serve the Eibishter joyously, happily, and in a revealed way. He doesn't have to hide it, he doesn't have to cover it over. Why? Because his simcha is founded, is premised on his bittul, on his humility, and on his feeling himself to be nothing. That everything he has comes from the Eibishter, that he feels himself to be completely nothing at all. And therefore he's able to experience, therefore when his simcha, when his joy for all of the gifts that the Eibishter gave him comes out in a revealed way, it doesn't bring any negative implications. It doesn't bring any negative results. We don't have to be weary that something not good will result from living a life with a revealed joy. On the contrary, because simcha breaks through all barriers, through the simcha, the person will courageously and stubbornly add in his avodah to the Eibishter on a higher level and in a more powerful way, in a more mighty way. Ad la avodah shelamayla mimedida v'hagbala, until he will do his avodah in a eifet that's beyond any boundaries and beyond any limitation in tikbayas achayis ba'avodah. Valideze, and by a yid doing his avodah in such a fashion, in such a manner, nasa gam tikbayas achayim kipshutoi, he will also have an added strength and energy in his life, in his literal physical life. What did they say over here in Ches? We live, like we discussed earlier, in the world of Hischalkos. We have to deal in our life with many, many details, with many different things. Some of them good, and some of them not so good. And even the ones that are good, we could find that they pull us in all directions. And this being torn and pulled in 100 different directions and more can bring a person to a very unhappy situation. The disharmony that he could find in his life can cause him a lot of anxiety and a lot of angst and just a lot of not being at peace with himself. For example, we have kids, we have work, we have friends, we have shul, we have halacha, Torah and mitzvahs, we have learning that we have to do, we have a yom depaga here, a l'chaim there, a chasana there to go to, a farbrengen, a this or that. There are so many details in our life. And when we live a fragmented life, when there's no oneness in our life, then all of this being torn apart from our responsibilities to our children, from our responsibilities to our work and to our co-workers, from our responsibilities to Torah and mitzvahs, if it's all separate stories by us, then it pulls us in many different directions, and we can't find peace, we can't find happiness. The Rebbe says over here that if a person can bring a real joy into his life, and a joy that comes from a place that's l'mayla mihischalkos, he realizes the unifying truth of it all, of everything that's there. What are my children? It's part of serving the Eibishter. What's my work? I'm going to work for my own greatness. I'm going to work because it says in Torah Sheishes Yomim Ta'avit. Why am I going to sleep and why am I eating? It's all because it says in Torah it's part of serving the Eibishter. And of course the Torah mitzvahs is part of serving the Eibishter. When a Yid is in a happy state, he can reach that level. When a Yid experiences happiness in his life in a revealed way, he can break down all the barriers, all the boundaries, all the differences, and see the truth that's behind every single detail of his life, every single responsibility in his life, that it's all part of one story, it's part of the truth, the one truth of the Eibishter, and it's part of him serving the Eibishter and revealing the Eibishter down here in this world. And then he has, like the Rebbe says, his life in this world is a happy life, is a good life, is a life of peace and harmony. Chaim.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Just a word from our sponsors. First of all, I want to thank the sponsors of this Farbrengen, mention all the brachas, Baruch Chayei Zayna. And also, one of the sponsors asked to say a few names for a bracha for Shidduchim, Mushka Bas Esther, Menachem Mendel Ben Esther, and Gershon Ben Zion Ben Esther. We should have a bracha for Shidduchim, B'Karev.
Amen.
And by the way, just so you know, Rabbi Gansberg gives a shir every Tuesday night in different, Mamar of the Rebbe, and it would be a good thing for everybody to join. It's usually between 8 to 9. I'm sorry. It's a hemshech, yeah, but I'm saying we're going to finish it. So another moment. But he does it at he does it be'iyun. It's broadcasted as well if you can't make it, but it's always better to be in person. I'm thinking
And you're going to go
he said it
to
right.
Rayim?
L'chaim, what do you want? He gets some redemption. Redemption.
It's good to be redeemed.
Chayei, Moshe Katzman, Gräbste soll gegeben Kirch auf Mamschach sein,
Amen.
Buin, wer sagt, dass es kann sein, noch ein Stock da? Gewalt, echt auch noch zum Verlust.
L'chaim. First, you got to be posting with a compliment. You know, Moshe, this is I could just imagine seeing over here the Asmod and Torah over here that's going to happen in this room with all this library with this Smodim over here. I'm already going to ask you to take take a place over here, point the place. Hashem, it's really done with a lot of good taste. A breitkeit. Chaim, good yontif, everyone. Yontif. It's very apropos. We're sitting with Farbrengen in a place. This is the Chalukas Habayis for an upcoming Beis Medrash. We're going to learn Nigul Chassidus. It's the best way to start is with Farbrengen. So you give the learning a taste. The learning is done with the ruach of Chassidus, the ruach of Yutas Kislev Farbrengen. It certainly will bring a lot of Ashpah, because Yutas Kislev is, as the Rebbe says, the Ashpah of Yutas Kislev is the Ashpah that affects us every day of the year. Today, Yutas Kislev is, we know, one of the Inyonim, one of the things that the Magid of Meshlich told Al Rebbe, as Yutas Kislev is unser Yontif. And ends up being that Yutas Kislev was the day where the Magid was nostalgic. The Stalkus of the Magid today is the 250th year of his Stalkus. And which, by the way, his Stalkus came about. There was a Maisa with his Stalkus. The Chassidim were very much, the redifus against Chassidim was terrible. And the Chassidim created that at some point it came to a point, I don't remember the pratim, but at some point it came So they couldn't live it. They couldn't survive it. Their defense was horrible. It was terrible. I don't know if this was this mice or not, but I know that I saw a sipur. That was another mice, but the defense was gefährlich. And at that point, the Chassidim decided that they're going to take action. The Chassidim, the Talmidim, and the Magid were Gedolei Olam, were the beyond anything that we be masig, their greatness. The Baal Shem Tov had 60 tzaddikim al Ruch HaKodesh, Talmidim. The Magid, his inner circle was 120, and many of them were tzaddikim, this government that I heard from a relative of mine who said b'shem, one of the Slonim Rebbes, that these were you're talking about during the kufa of the Baal Shem Tov, the Talmid of the Magid, the Talmid of tzaddikim were the doim to tanoim and amiroim. The Rebbe has said somewhere in Aora and the Kudesichis that we know that Chazr Nevuah La'olam by Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. There was a period of time when Nevuah somehow it dissipated. At some point, it was Chazr Nevuah, came back. You saw by Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, there was some, and the Rebbe writes, you see that by the Baal Shem Tov and the Talmid of it came back in a Oifen where it was, but I don't know, what Madregas in Nevuah, but the Ruach HaKodesh that was there between Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov and Talmidim was unbelievable. And so if they wanted, they could have taken some serious action. And at that point, they decided to take some serious action. And the Magid, and I'm not sure if they made a cherim, they wanted to make a cherim. And the Magid came out and said that what you did was something that was not a proper thing to do. Even though you're all being you're terribly, the defense are terrible, and because of that, I'm going to have to be mistalik. But Yad Chassidim Alal Yoina, that's the famous saying of Yad Chassidim Alal Yoina was that Magad said, "I'm going to have to be mistalik," but Yad Chassidim Alal Yoina. And so today, the Magid today was the 250th Yom of Istalkus, 250 years of the Magid of Mezrich. Yudas Kislev is the Yom Tiv shared between the Magid and his dearest Talmud, the Alter Rebbe. The Magid, we'll start with this story because I think that it's going to lay down a yesod, it's going to lay down a foundation and give us a little bit of an understanding and an appreciation. B'chlal and the Gilu of Torah Chassidus, because B'chlal, I remember when I was a young boy, I was once learning with a Chassidus Yid, who was a Chatzi Rebbe. Today he's a whole Rebbe. When I lived with him, privately, he was a Chatzi Rebbe, my neighbor. And I was a young boy of 12 years old or 13, and my father hired him to learn with me a little bit. We learned. No, I learned with him Nigla. I'm a Gemara Pesachim, I learned with him. Today, I think he's already a whole Rebbe. And as Israel, he moved. But that time, he was my neighbor in Muncie. I still remember till today, he told me a word, we were once schmoozing about Chidis, he said, what's that Chidis Mechadash given? What's the Chidushim? Well, everything you have in Chidis, you haven't Teres Harizal. So the Emir says, I was 12 years old then. I mean, obviously, he's not right. Chidis has tremendous. I would have known a little bit, if I would have been a little bit more educated, I would have told him to learn the Kundas Yanosh Teres Chidis of the Rebbe. You'll see what Chidis at Mechadash given. It's a whole different thing. The Rebbe says so much so that he says, normally you think that Chassidus is a hasbara on Kabbalah. You learn in Yonah Kabbalah. I don't know if any of you have ever sat by a shefer Rebbe Yoel. If you came to Yonah of Kabbalah, he rattled it through, he said, Ich verstehe es nicht. It's a different story, but that's what he said, Ich verstehe es nicht. And he would right away go to the Chassidus. Sometimes in Derech L'Tesecha, you would bring down, the Samachsadi would bring down sometimes between 5 to 15 lines of Kabbalah, and he wouldn't even start with that. Let's go straight to Yonah, to the Biyurim, to the Chassidus. But so normally you understand, you learn that Chassidus is a hezbeh, is an explanation on Kabbalah, but they never think the other way around. Kabbalah is a Pirush of Chassidus. The Rebbe speaks how Chassidus is etzem. It's a whole different gather. It's a whole different gather of Torah. So I want to just tell you this with a share with a story. The Maggid of Mezrich, before he came to the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe said that the Maggid of Mezrich, he was a goyin olam. He was a goyin olam in Nigla. Goyin olam in Nigla. Before he came to the Alter Rebbe said, Talmud Pnei Yeshua, I'm going to get to it in a moment. The Alter Rebbe said that his Rebbe, the Maggid of Mezrich, went through every gedrukte sefer in Nigla and in Nister 101 times plus. You know what that means? Every gedrukte sefer. And it's not just the kamus, it's the eiches shebezeh. Means the Alter Rebbe is masber that there's a yin of avodas Hashem, asher avodoi, asher lo yavodoi. The Alter Rebbe is masber that the higher madrege is dafka when it's 101 times. So the pshat is it's the quality, it's the gather of Torah. Chines avodah is a whole different gather of Torah. It's a whole different gather of limud Torah. And he says that that's how the Maggid covered every gedrukta, every printed sefer. There were thousands of svarim. 101 times. And so you can imagine, he was a Talmud by the Pnei Yeshua. The Pnei Yeshua was giving a shir. Yeshua had a yeshiva, big yeshiva. The Pnei Yeshua, you know why he wrote a svarim, you know. What happened was the Pnei Yeshua was once down, the house collapsed over him. The Pnei Yeshua said that if the Eibush is going to be matzalim from this house, from this disaster, he promises that he'll write his svarim and it'll be in Memena will yotza oir for the generations to come until which right now even the Pnei Yeshua, even the yeshivas, in all the yeshivas, the Pnei Yeshua is one of the Yesodis, the Svarim, the Yesodish Svarim on Yonah Chassidus. I'm going to quote you what I heard when I saw once from maybe I heard once from Yisrael Friedman. Yisrael Friedman was once talking about the Pnei Yeshua verse, another sefer from the Gedolei Olam. A sefer that is very much used in Chassidus, in yeshivas. And he said, but you can't compare this Mechaba to the Pnei Yeshua. The Pnei Yeshua is in a whole different league. So he said a word that I'm quoting you to Rabbi Yisrael. Rabbi Yisrael said this word. It's not me saying it. I don't know if I would say it, but Rabbi Yisrael said it. He said it's al derech with the vibe of Shaila, where is grasses that I got trouble to the Bakivega. That's you remember his sprach, the vibe of Shaila. That means that, so there was a book over there saying this, says, F Shitakiya, that I could my grass for the Bekivega. And he wanted to smack him. All right, whatever, ich verstehe es nicht, because the Ragushava was L'choira in a whole different league himself, but I'm just talking about what from the Bekivega. So you can imagine the Pnei Yeshua. The Pnei Yeshua was, but at the bottom is what was the Pnei Yeshua was a Godlish B'Gdolim in the true sense. And the Maggid Bechlal, he couldn't move his left foot. He had to drag his left foot. The Alter Rebbe said the reason was because by the Maggid, every tnua by the Maggid was Adam Elyon, less smola b'hayatika. There's no smile in the madreg, in the pchina of the Maggid. There was no smile. That's why his left foot wasn't functioning right. But the Yeshua is giving a shir. Middle of the shir, someone comes in and says that B'Yisrael Baal Shem Tov is right outside, and he wants you to come see him. So Yeshua says, tell him that I'm Milva Shir. I don't have time to come see him right now. Comes back again. He tells him that my Rebbe said that Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov said he's outside. You should come see him. And he said again, I'm not coming. So the Maggid said, so the Baal Shem Tov sent him in a third time, and he told him that, okay, you don't want to come out? Don't come out. You should know that in your city is Min Michael, they're feeding treifas in your city. That was the Maisa. Yeshua hears that. He chaps a pachad. But my Rebbe Soba Hashem said that in your city they're teaching tzeivis, but I'm leaving and having a good day. You don't want to come out? Don't come out. I'm on my way. And the Baal Shem Tov took off, and meanwhile the Pnei Shua obviously got nuts in the vulbu. And he said, what, tzeivis, what, yeah? Anyhow, if he finishes shir or not, I don't know, but he right away started looking at making a chikira drisha, and he found out that there was a serious issue with kashrus, with one of his butchers, whatever the issue was. So the Pnei realized that there was Baal Shem Tov. He heard rumors that is a Gora Grace mentioned about Moifis, but when you experience it yourself, it's a very different story. He realized that the Baal Shem Tov is a Pisgora is a very great man. So he told the Magid, I think you should go to the Baal Shem Tov. You need a refuah, you need a yeshua with your feet. So I want you to go to the Baal Shem Tov. And that's one, there's kama gersoyes, but that's one of the gersoyes how the Magid came to the Baal Shem Tov. The Magid said that I had 36 questions on the Baal Shem Tov. So he told us, Rebbe, I have a lot of kashas on this episode Baal Shem Tov. I don't really, but he said after seeing this, he said to him, I think you can go, you're fine. And he went to the Baal Shem Tov, and he went and he stayed by the Baal Shem Tov. Later, when he came back to the Pnei Yeshua said, what happened to the 36 kashas? He had 36 questions on him. And he said that my 36 questions was based on the fact that I saw the Baal Shem Tov as a Yeludisha. I saw him as a human being, a human individual. But after I met him, I realized that he's a Malach Elikim. He's an angel. He's not Bechlal. If I wouldn't be told, I wouldn't know that this man was born from a natural way of born, I would say that it's not shaykh. A man like that was born from in a natural way. Came from a father and mother. He must have fallen from him. I know he came from a father and mother, but I wouldn't have been able to imagine. So he said, my 36 kasha is not a kasha. I had a kasha on a human being. I had 36 questions on a human being. I discovered that Baal Shem Tov was not a human being. Anyhow, the story goes that when the Magid came to the Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov asked him, if I could ask you pshat in the Zoya. He says, yeah. The Magid was clear in the whole Zoya. So the Baal Shem Tov asked him pshat to open the Zoya to a certain place, and asked him what's pshat in the Zoya. So the Magid told him what he thought the pshat was. He looked at it, he thought for a second, he explained it, told him the pshat in the Zoya. Hashem said, that's the pshat, that's not the pshat. He looked at it again. He said it again. He said the same thing. He looked over and he said again, it was masbeh again, the pshat in the Zoya. Hashem says, that's not the pshat, that's not the Zoya. He said it a third time. At some point, he told the Baal Shem Tov, this is how, what you tell me the pshat. The Baal Shem Tov said, okay, you want to hear the pshat in the Zoya? I'll share with you the pshat in the Zoya. And the Baal Shem Tov then went into a dveikus, and then opened his eyes, and told him the pshat in the Zoya. The same way exactly how the Magid said it. But there was one difference. The Magid said, when I said it, there was a pshat. When the Baal Shem Tov said it, I saw it in the earliness. I saw it in all the worlds. I saw whatever the Zohar was saying, I saw it in front of my eyes. It wasn't just a pshat. It wasn't just I was learning a Zohar, how it is up there. I was up there. He brought me together with him and I saw it. And the Baal Shem Tov says, that's how you learn it. That's how you learn a Zohar. And obviously, that was the introduction to the new Torah of the Maggid of Mezritch, which he was by the Baal Shem Tov, and he was there for about 7 or 8 years. I think the Maggid was by the Baal Shem Tov, and even though the Talmidim were the many Talmidim that were there a lot before him, a lot before the Maggid of Mezritch, yet the Maggid of Mezritch was the one who took over was the Malamokim, which by the way didn't happen right away. It happened a year later. Right away when the Baal Shem Tov was nifter, the one who was his malamokum was his son Reb Tzvi. Reb Tzvi was a holy Yid, but he obviously he didn't have the leader kind of qualities. He was a Yid, but they Talmidim Mekabel Soil would Mekabel him as the Rebbe because he was his son. And it was a year later that in the middle of a Tish, Reb Tzvi said that my father came to me last night and told me that Reb Tzvi, my entire Rezun Reb Tzvi, the ganze Pamalya, the whole Pamalya went over to the Rebbe Rebbe, to the Maggid of Mazish Reb Doive of Mezrich. And in the middle of the Tish, he took off his Rebbe pelt and he gave it to the Maggid and he said, "You sit," and he moved to the side and you take over. And that's how the Maggid took over. And the Maggid knew about it apparently. The Maggid knew of this apparently. The Maggid, it wasn't a double chodesh. He obviously, the Baal Shem Tov Mistamah came to him and told him that it's by you. And that's how the Maggid became the Rebbe. When the Alter Rebbe came to the Maggid of Mezrich, the point I want to bring out from the story was that this is one of the yonim that Chassidus, that the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, who are the two Ovos Chassidim Aklolim, which then came to Alter Rebbe. So one of the yonim of the Chidushim of the Baal Shem Tov, you're talking about the Chidushim of Chassidus, was that the Baal Shem Tov was brought down and was Megala Elokus in the world in a way where the Chassidus, the Torah of the Baal Shem Tov, was brought into the world where an Adam, Ish Poshet, a simple person, became elevated. It wasn't Stam learning, it wasn't Stam a Torah that he learned. It was the Madregas, the high spiritual, Ruchnizik Madregas, he was bringing it down into the world. And to do that, it's because the Torah was a higher level of Torah. There's a famous Maisa, by the way, comes to mind, that the Maggid of it, that the Baal Shem Tov was once sitting with his Talmidim, and he was giving over, he was saying Torah. At some point, one of his Talmidim says, ask him, Rebbe, the Arizal says differently. You're not saying like the Arizal. You have to realize that these Talmidim were Baki B'chol Kisvi Ari. So he says, you're not going with the Arizal. And the Baal Shem Tov closes his eyes and falls into a deep dveikis. And at the other side of the table was sitting Reb Nachman Haradonka. And Reb Nachman Haradonka was one of the Talmidim one of the great Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov, who was the Zayde of Reb Nachman of Breslov. Reb Nachman of Breslov, I think, was named after Reb Nachman Haradonka. And Reb Nachman Haradonka was sitting there, and suddenly he feels very tired, and he can't keep his eyes open. And he felt horrible. He's sitting by his Rebbe. There was an aim of a pachat sitting by the Baal Shem Tov. How can I fall asleep? But he couldn't control himself, and he fell asleep. He fell asleep. And as he's sleeping, he sees himself up in heaven. And he sees how the Baal Shem Tov is talking to the Arizal. And they're talking exactly what the Baal Shem Tov was discussing down here a moment ago. And which the Talmud says that the Arizal says different than the Baal Shem Tov. And he sees that the Baal Shem Tov and the Mag and the Arizal are arguing and arguing and arguing until the Arizal tells the Baal Shem Tov, you're right. Now, Chas V'Shom, doesn't mean the Baal Shem Tov, the Arizal was wrong. Nothing in Arizal was wrong. But the pshat is the Baal Shem Tov tapped into a higher element, a higher pchina, and that pchina was like you spoke before about a chalkus. The higher you go, the less chalik you have. The higher you go, the more. So in that oilam, what Baal Shem Tov was talking about, in the end, the Arizal was masking you right. You know, you're tapping into somewhere higher, you're bringing it down lower. And then, with that, suddenly the Nachman wakes up. And as he wakes up, the Baal Shem Tov, he hears the Baal Shem Tov saying, again, over the same verb. And again, his Talmud says, but the Rebbe, the Arizal says differently. And the Baal Shem Tov says, Reb Nachman, call out, come to my rescue. Zog was du as Gezen L'mayla. And that's what Reb Nachman said that, yeah, that the Arizal was masking to the Baal Shem Tov. So my point is they were great Talmidim, but yet the Maggid of Bezrich, he was the Malamokim. He became the Malamokim. And interesting. The B'shasta, when the Baal Shem Tov was nifter, the Baal Shem Tov was the Maggid, the Alter Rebbe was 15 years old. Now you have to understand, the Alter Rebbe was not an ordinary 15-year-old. The Alter Rebbe told the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek spoke to him about a certain sefer. He wanted it by Svarim. He told the Tzemach Tzedek. No, he told the Tzemach Tzedek that. Was another story with this one, but that's Marash and Tzemach Tzedek. But the Alter Rebbe told the Tzemach Tzedek that when he was 7 years old, he knew the whole Shlo by heart, and everything he did was al pi kavanas hashlo. 7 years old. What do you say about a 7? That's pretty good for a 7-year-old, huh? He was 7 years old, and everything he did was al pi kavanas hashlo. 7 years old. Now it's not such a wonder that when he was 8 years old, he wrote a sefer. You know what Alter Rebbe wrote a sefer when he was 8 years old? He wrote a sefer on Chumash, and it was an entire Chumash. It was a Pirush that was included Rashi, Ramban, and Rabbeinu Even Ezra. And where's this Pirush today? When he was 10 years old, he burnt it. Why? It was a story. When he was 10 years old, he didn't print it yet. He had a cholim. The Alter Rebbe, a 10-year-old boy, had a cholim. And in his dream, he's called in to Bezdin Shel Maila. And in Bezdin Shel Maila, he sees 3 Yidden with white beards sitting. And they tell him that these are 3 Yidden, these are Rashi, Ramban, and Rabbeinu Even Ezra. And they're calling you to a Din Torah. What's the Din Torah? They said, we worked very hard to write our Pirush. And our Pirush that we wrote is a Pirush that was Mezakeh. We Mezakeh, it's a great schus for us. And now that you wrote a Pirush that includes all our 3 Pirushim, they're not going to any longer learn our Pirush. My Pirush, they're going to learn your Pirush. Which, by the way, tells you, a lot of times you have these, you have art scroll, or you have whatever, you can also say that they don't have that problem. When Alter Rebbe wrote it, they had the problem. They knew if he wrote the sefer is going to be, the sefer is going to end up being used in a way where it's going to affect him. It's going to affect him. So they said that so Alter Rebbe started to cry, and he said he's going to burn it. And they gave him a bracha. He had this dream 3 times, and he burnt the sefer. That was when he was 8 years old and 10. So when he was 15 years old, the Baal Shem Tov, he said at that point, already since he's 7 years old, he did everything according to the Shloh. Since he's 7 years old, he knew the entire Shloh by heart, and everything he did was according to the Kavanah of the Shloh. When he was 15 years old, he gets a dream. That the Shloh HaKadosh came and tells him that since sight, you take a Rebbe, a living Rebbe. And that's when the Alter Rebbe, I don't know, maybe he was a little bit older than 15, Alter Rebbe said he didn't know if he had a choice to go to Vilna or to Mezrich. He heard that in Vilna there he learns how to learn, in Mezrich he learned how to daven. Learning I know a little bit, but davening I don't know at all. So that was not nice. But the pella was that the Alter Rebbe was 15 years old, and look how wise he was. Look how smart he was. Look how great he was. He was already they already called him the Rav Tano Polik by his bar mitzvah. Yet he knew nothing of the Baal Shem Tov. His Rabbeim, until at some point when he was a kid, Rabbi Socha, what's his name? Rabbi Socha Doev of Lubavitch, I think it was. His Rabbeim who learned with him when he was a kid were Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov. And he knew nothing about the Baal Shem Tov. And one of the reasons for that was because the Baal Shem Tov told the Maggid at one point that this neshama chadosha that how much I have had Mesiras Nefesh for, as thine is, he's not by me. He's yours. He's going to come to you. I'm not zoicha to be by me. He's going to be a town. He's yours. And even by you, he's going to have to come on his own. And that's why it was a hira from the Baal Shem Tov. The Alter Rebbe's father was a Talmud from the Baal Shem Tov, from the tzaddik in the story. Yet the Baal Shem Tov told them and warned them, don't tell the Alter Rebbe anything about me. And it was probably a purpose of Baal Shem Tov that Imkol there, he knew nothing about the Baal Shem Tov. And later he came to the Maggid, it was all on his own. But the Maggid was waiting for the Alter Rebbe to show up. So you can imagine the great simcha it was when the Alter Rebbe finally showed up by the Maggid of Mezrich. And as soon as he came to the Maggid of Mezrich, the Maggid had a tremendous love to the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe, you know that he right away set up a chavrusa for the Maggid, for the Alter Rebbe to come and learn with his son, the Malach. He learned 3 hours a day Nigla with him. He learned 3 hours a day Chassidus with him. And the Maggid himself learned with the Alter Rebbe. So the Maggid, the Alter Rebbe was the dearest Talmud of the Maggid. Memela, it's this Nekuda, this word, this thing with the Baal Shem Tov told the Maggid, because the Maggid came to him. He didn't stop telling the Pshat in the Zohar. He showed him the Zohar. He was Megala him the Zohar. He brought him, he didn't bring the Zohar down to him, he brought him up to the Zohar. It was a whole new Torah. It was a whole new connection. So obviously, it's understood that this is in Yonim what the Maggid invested in the Alter Rebbe. And here when the Alter Rebbe came and he came and he was miskash himself to the Maggid. We'll speak later about the incredible iskashus he had to the Maggid. The Alter Rebbe said that when they asked him, when he came to Peterburg, they asked him if he's connected to the Maggid, if he's connected to the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And the Alter Rebbe said, if I would have said no, the whole thing they would have let me out right away. But I didn't want to disconnect myself even one rega b'dibur, even though I don't mean it. One rega b'dibur from the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. So you can see the Godla Skashrus. The Mele this inyan that the Alter Rebbe gave us Chassidus. He brought the Chassidus down in Chabad, but what did he bring down in Chabad? He brought a Torah that is not stam Torah that you're learning, that you understand and you see, but no, it's a Torah, it's the Chassidus, it's the Torah, Baal Shem Tov, that can awaken anyone, even us. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Three.
Chayei.
This is the Farbrengen. The Farbrengen. The Hechef.
We spoke about it. Yeah. With the spirit, all the learning, the limit of Nigna Chassidus, going to be with the spirit, with the foundation of Chassidus Farbrengen.
The Chaduk Chabad, you make a Chassidus Farbrengen jump on the table, you know. So Farbrengen should go back there.
The Rebbe writes, the Alter Rebbe writes that the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe, he wrote to Kaverim, he said that, and he wrote to Chassidim, Zeh Yoim, Hukvel Moed Chassidi, for the Moed Timidi, the Moed Timidi be Yisrael. And the Rebbe says, what does it mean, Hukvel Moed Timidi? What does it mean, Hukva? L'moyed, it was established in a permanent way. L'moyed, a continuous moyed. What does it mean, a continuous moyed, a continuous yomtiv? If you want to tell me that it was established as a yomtiv for every year, so it was hukva, l'moyed, of Yisrael. it was established as a Yom Tif by Yidden. What does it mean, L'moya Timidi? L'moya Timidi. Constant, continuous. So the Rebbe says the pshat is, you have to say, based on the Pashat pshat, that it's not just that Yutas Kislev was a continuous Yom Tiv every year. It's a continuous Yom Tiv that's affecting you every day of the year. That's what Tzimidi means. That, which is different than any other Yom Tiv. It's not the pshat you're inspired by the day. I'm inspired by the day throughout the year. That's very Yom Tiv. If you take Rosh Hashanah right, so you're affected by Rosh Hashanah all year. If you take any Yom Tov, you take Sukkot right, a Pesach right, it's the whole entire year you're living with the effects and the associations of that Yom Tov. It still wouldn't warrant Hukva L'moyed Timidi. Hukva L'moyed. And as a result, if it's Hukva, if it was established and permanent, it's made to be permanent as a Kavua, like a permanent Yom Tov. So obviously, every year you choygig, you celebrate the Yom Tiv, and as a result of that celebration, you're affected by it for the rest of the whole year. This means there's something unique about Yutas Kislev. That Yutas Kislev is a Yom Tiv that is not just hukva, not just celebrated in a permanent way as a Yom Tiv, but it's Timidi. Every day you're affected. It's not just you're affected every day. It's the Yom Tiv of Yutas Kislev is continuous. It's not just today Yutas Kislev, but in a month from now it's also Yutas Kislev. In 2 months from now it's also Yom Tiv Yutas Kislev. It's not that in 2 months from now you're affected by the greatness of today's day. No, the day itself extends itself timidi. Otherwise, it has no word, there has no meaning, there's no pshat in the words. The Rebbe says there's one more Yom Tiv you find similar to this. The Rebbe says every example in Chassidus or anything that you have has to have a source in Torah. You have to find it someplace where it existed in Torah. The Rebbe says you find in one of the Yom Tovim a similar Kudah. And that's by Yom Tov Pesach. A Yom Tov Pesach, he says, is man chereseinu. We became free. It's not the pshat that you became free. And what do we say? We say it in the bracha, Asher golonu v'golas aviseinu. You freed us, and you freed our fathers, and you freed us. What do you mean you freed us? You didn't free us. You freed our ancestors. As a result, we're the collateral. As a result, we're here. So the Rebbe says, no, Pesach is a Yom Tiv, different than Sukkot and different than Shavuos, even different than Matan Torah. That the Yom Tiv of Pesach is actually extending itself and continuously happening every day. Which means, says the Rebbe, in other words, it's not just the Yitzias Mitzrayim that was something great that happened, which needed a great miracle, but the actual being free, says the Rebbe, you need a continuous miracle, continuous nest from the Eibishter, just so that we can be in a mode of freedom. That's what the Rebbe says. What's the pshat? So let me. I'll tell you what the Rebbe says, but I want to embellish it a little bit. There's a vort the Rebbe says by Purim. The Rebbe asked the kasha. Moshe, you probably remember that sikha. It was a sikha the Rebbe spoke in I think Tavshim Memhei. The Rebbe spoke there and said. The Gemara says that the Gemara asks, why did the Jewish people, why were they punished or almost punished? There's a gzeira for them to be executed. What's the terrible avera they did? And the Gemara says there, because they They had they enjoyed the Suda of Oisei Rosh, of the Rosh of Achashverosh. Achashverosh made a big feast. And he invited Kitzoy Nish V'yish. He had all the Choshev Yidden. He had a whole Mizrach Vant, the whole Mizrach corner there. And he had all the Choshev, all the Shchitas were there. And all the kinds of Shchitas were there. Maybe they were shechting there also. Maybe it wasn't just imported. Maybe he had the extra Shchitas there too. And he had kosher cows with people with Yidden making Chol of Yisrael. It was Al Tzada Yosef Toiv. Chitzoin Ish Ve'ish. Kitzoin Mordechai. Ish, one of the Ishes is Ish Mordechai. Kitzoin Mordechai. He did also Kitzoin Haman, but he also did Kitzoin Mordechai. And Mordechai clapped Yosef Shulon should go, but many Yidden went. They felt they had to go. And they went and they enjoyed, even though it was all kosher, but the Eibush was not happy about that. And as a result, says the Gemara, is why there was a gzeira on them, a gzeira decree of Kliya. Which all the Mefarshim wonder, what's the pshat? I understand, it's not a good thing that they were nehana shadash shloisha rasha. They had they took part of that Suda. They partied. And it was a party. He knew how to party, Achashverosh, by the way. If he knew one thing how to do good, he knew how to party. Right? But why clear? Why for that you're going to be destroyed and killed? What's your terrible idea? That's a question that all the Mefarshim ask. They all wonder what the pshat is. And here the Rebbe comes with a fascinating nikud. The Rebbe comes and says that this wasn't a punishment. It wasn't a punishment. Punishment, you're right. The crime doesn't fit the bill. It's not the punishment. It doesn't make any sense. It wasn't Mechala punishment. The Yidden said, the Eibusha said, look, I'm going to let you have to understand, Bnei Yisrael, Jewish people. You don't, according to the Seder of the Welt, according to the system of how in the Bria, the Teviyazdike Bria, the Bnei Yisrael don't have a room to exist. Al Piteva, we don't exist. We don't have an avenue. We don't have the platform to exist. Where do we know this from? It's a medrash. It says that we are a shivim. We are a keves echad. We're like a sheep between shivim zeivim, 60 wolves, 70 wolves, shivim zeivim. A keves that is surrounded with 70 wolves doesn't stand a chance up in nature to live. Doesn't stand a chance. And by the way, I don't know if you ever read about it, or you watched it, but when a wolf attacks someone, when a dog attacks, they don't just stand attack. Not like a lion that holds you by the neck and kills you. They rip you into pieces. They rip you up alive. They bite you and rip you into pieces. A keves echad doesn't stand a chance. But what does the Medrash say? Gadol haroya shemashamru matzila. But if you have a very special shepherd, that special shepherd is going to watch over you. He's going to watch over this ze'ev. He's going to watch over this keves and will not let the ze'evim, the wolves, come close. Which means over here, Klal Yisrael al piteva doesn't have. We al piteva cannot survive the 70 nations. Our existence is not a natural one. The only reason why we exist is because it's Gadol Roya Shemeshamru Matzila. Great is the shepherd, which is the Eibishter, that watches over us and saves us. Says the Eibishter like this: you Yidden, why did you go to the Suda Shloisha Rasha? Why did you go to that Suda? And not just that Shnehenu. You shiked with the guy. You enjoyed. You went and you tried to show the guy that you could also, you're part of it, you partied with the guy. Why? Because you felt that you need the guy to be on your good side. You're afraid of that guy. You know that guy doesn't like you. Especially here, you're in Gullus, 70 years in Gullus, it's not Geschmack. It's very difficult. It's not your place, and you're in his territory. You need the guy to be able to go ahead and watch you and be a friend that want to hurt you. That's they partied with the guy because they wanted to befriend the guy. They wanted the guy to like him. They wanted the guy to be nice by them, so that the guy won't hurt them. The guy should accept them. Says the Eibishter, you want to live a natural life. You don't want to. You're not recognizing that Godul Haroya Shemeshamra Shematzila Shemeshamra Matzila. No, you want to live a natural life. Gesundheit. I'm going to turn my face. I'm going to turn away. I'll let you live naturally. Let's see what happens. What happens when the Shaz the Eibishter says, "I'm going to leave you alone"? You have a Haman that wants to get up before you know it and wants to destroy you. So the Rebbe says, comes out, it was a punishment. It wasn't a punishment. It was just a sad reality. You chose to live a natural life. That's how you want to live. You don't want to rely on me. You want to rely that the guy himself should like you. All right, Gesundheit. Go try. Be my, you're welcome. Go and try it out. See how it works. It's not going to work. Why? Because Klal Yisrael does not, it's in the DNA of natural Seder HaOlam that Klal Yisrael does not have a place to live and survive among the 70 nations. There's only one reason why we are here. There's only one reason why we survive. It's because we have the Eibishter that watches us, and that our existence is only dependent on him. It's not a natural. The Yavitz writes, Chassid Yavitz writes, that the greatest miracle that happened in Klal Yisrael, greater than the miracle that even of Kriyas Yamsuf, the greatest miracle that happened in Klal Yisrael is our survival. That's what he writes. If you think about it, all the pogroms and all the gzeres and all the countries and strong, powerful governments that wanted to destroy us, which most of them don't even exist today. But the Klal Yisrael is standing here today, and not just standing here today. Just think about this. 70 years ago, we were almost annihilated. And look 70, 80 years later, and look what Klal Yisrael built in 70, 80 years. How many Bati Midrashim? How many Bati Chadorim? How many girls' schools? How many boys' schools? It's not normal. It's just not normal. It's crazy. But that's the emes. Our existence is not one of natural. We're not naturally made to exist in this world. Our existence is supernatural. It's the Eibishter. Oh, says the Rebbe, therefore, the inyan achedis of Klal Yisrael by Yidden needs to happen every moment. If the Eibishter lets go to be in it's not the pshat, he took us out, he gave us our land, and now he says, live on your own, now you're already chedis. You became redeemed people, I took you out of Mitzrayim, and you're redeemed. Says the Rebbe, no. You constantly need to be continuously redeemed by the Eibishter and maintained as a redeemed nation for you to survive. The Rebbe says, just like Kriyas Yamsuf, which Al Rebbe writes to Sharichot Ba'amunah, right? That the Yamsuf, you needed the water, you needed the Ruach Kodem Azah Kol Halayla. You needed the entire night. Why? Because water, the nature of water is, it's not erect like a wall. It doesn't stand erect like a wall. The nature of water is that it flows. And therefore you constantly needed the Ruach Hashem, Kol Halayla, to make it the water, for it to be a choyma, not for it to be a choyma, to be a wall. Says the Rebbe, Al-Derech Zeh Cheres. For Yidden to be in a matzav of Cheres, You need a continuous yitzia. The Eibishter taking us out of Mitzrayim. Says the Rebbe. So here you have, and the Rebbe says that's why in Chabad we don't say Chasal Seder Pesach. So you always learn why we don't say Chasal Seder Pesach, because Pesach never ends. It's a lot deeper. No Yom Tov ends, but it does end. All right, the effect of Yom Tov is going a whole Yom Tov, so that why can't you say Chasal Seder Pesach? Says it's a whole different world. It's not that it doesn't end. It's the Yom Tov of Pesach, and that's why the Rebbe says Yitzias Mitzrayim is what does the Chinuch say? Yichsoid Chazak b'Torasenu v'Emunuseinu. It's a Yisoid Chazak v'Omud. It's a foundation and a pillar in everything we do, and we're masking Yitzias Mitzrayim every single day, twice a day. Why? Because we're actually, the Yitzias Mitzrayim is taking place every day. Says the Rebbe. Now, this is the one example you have for Aldereza Yutas Kislev. Yutas Kislev says the Rebbe, it's not Stam Kabbalah. So we started off, it's not Kabbalah. It's a Gilui Elikus. Kabbalah is the pshat. First of all, Kabbalah, even we're talking about even before the Alter Rebbe. Kabbalah is the pshat you're learning in Yonim of Seidas HaTorah. But when you learn Kabbalah as a Mekubal, you're not B'Dara Duna, you're not in this world. You're taka somewhere else. You're taka not in this world. This world is not a keli for Kabbalah. This world is a keli for Nigla, Shoshan Chatapara, for all the Yonim and Nigla you learn. It's not Kabbalah. Kabbalah it's Kabbalah. It's Chinese. Comes the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov brings down the Yonim of Torah in a way where it awakens the Ava in every single year. It awakens the Amun in every single year. And then comes the Alter Rebbe and takes that Gilui of the Baal Shem Tov, which is, the Rebbe says, it's the Yechida of Torah, it's the Me'ein of Torah of Mashiach. Comes the Alter Rebbe and he brings it down into Mamish Olam, into Seichel, that with your Avon and Asabi you can understand and tap into the Koyach HaYechida, the Koyach, the Seichel Eliki. It's Elikus. It's Elikus. It's not a disguise of Elikus. It's Elikus. You're learning a Maimach Chassidus. You learn Chassidus. You're learning Elikus. It's Chochma Eliki. The Kabbalah didn't have that power to tap that into that, because Kabbalah is Kabbalah. Kabbalah is actually going out of the universe, going out of the Akbalah Soilam, and you're somewhere else. And now, wherever you are, whatever oilam you are, that's your Kabbalah. Chassidus is our world. And Chassidus is something that affects everyone. I remember when I was 13 years old, I was L'chaim. I remember after Stan Muncie, when I was a kid, it's not like it's today. Today it's a big Chiddush L'Bavish Shtad with 10 Bati Madrashim. When I was a kid, I was the only family there until I was about 10, 11. No, it was me and some Hayes. There was a Dr. Hayes that lived there, but then Lichman came already. System came 1979. Not Vizhnitz. Saying Vizhnitz was there earlier. I'm saying Lubavitch. When I grew up, there was Kanoka. Chaim and Yitzhak Kanoka lived there for a couple of years, 77, 78, 79. Then 1980, the Litzman came 78, 79. That's when it started to, and 1980, 19 Tavshin Mem Aleph is when my father opened the shul in Chabad. He opened the shul, It was the shul opened with mincha on Shabbos and Shalosh Shudas. Mincha Shabbos. That's how it started. And then 3-4 months later, it became into a shul. And from there, it exploded. And today, it's already you have 10 shuls there. Who knows? Chabad Kanahara is there. You have 2. You have now a bunch of yeshivas, and you have chadorim. It's a whole big. You have Yiddish speaking cheder, and you have the English speaking cheder. You have whatever you want. You have Kanahara. Okay. But when I was a kid, there was nothing there. There was nothing there. There was a lot of Frayim. The outskirts of Monsey was all Frayim. Where Pomona is today, there wasn't a Fruma Yid there. It's all Frayim. Goyim are Frayim. Not just Pomona. Wesley Hills was all Goyim. It was all Frayim and Goyim. It was all, now the Frayim and all, it's all Yid now. But anyhow, so I remember when I was 12 years old, or 13, there was a guy, a very nice guy. I actually just saw his son a few months ago, and I told him that I remember your father asked me this question. I remember I was buying a suit there, and he says to me in a very nice way, a real nice guy, and he told me, but he asked me a question. I don't know why he asked it to a 13-year-old kid. I don't know what he was thinking, but anyhow, he says, why in Chabad do they first learn, the first thing a guy comes to learn, they learn with him Tanya? Why do they learn with him Gemara first? So I told him, I said, I right away took the defense. I was a 12-year-old kid. I said, it's not true. I go to Balshuv Yeshiva every summer. My father would go to Camp Shiloh, and I see that they're learning Gemara there. They don't just learn Tanya. Okay. But as I got older, I told it to his son. I never met him. I told him, your father asked me this question. I want him to know, you can tell him this over here. That the pshat is, Chassidus, of course, Torah B'chlal awakens every single Yid. But Tanya, it's not Stam Limud. You're learning Stam Limud to be smarter. Tanya is Chassidus. It's a Bchina, a Madrega in Torah that taps into the very core, to the very DNA, to the very core of what Yid is, and has a way to awaken that Yid. So your question is, why do you learn with him Tanya right away? Well, first learn with him Gemara, then learn with him Tanya. No, I learn with him Gemara, but I'm also going to learn with him Tanya right away. Because Tanya is not the pshat because it comes later. Therefore, first learn Gemara. Well, you know how to read already a couple lines Gemara. Like he asked me, the guy doesn't even know how to read. He doesn't know which way to hold the book. You're ready to learn with him Tanya. Tanya is not Kabbalah. If it's Kabbalah, you're right. Tanya is Chassidus. Chassidus is a koyach of what the Baal Shem Tov, what he did. When you were in the presence of the Baal Shem Tov, just being in his presence, he would awaken your neshama to a point where you would have hishtapchus hanefesh. You would cry out to Hashem, want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Alter Rebbe took that power, took that koyach of the neshama, took that koyach of the neshmas of the rice of Torah, and he put it into the Sefer. He took the Torah of Hashem Tov and the Maggid, and he put it into the Sefer. So that when we learn the Sefer, when we learn Tanya, and you're connecting it with your Seichel, you're connecting with Elikus, with the Koyach HaYechida of Torah, in a revealed way, and that awakens you and takes you to a place you could have never gotten. And the Mitzvah is that what you see. You could take a person that doesn't keep Shabbos and learn with him Tanya. And it awakens him. It can awaken him in the greatest ways. Because Chassidus is, as mentioned before, the Baal Shem Tov was Megala to the Baal Maggid. It's not the Pshat in the Zohar. It's not what the Zohar is saying. It's seeing what the Zohar is saying. Relating to it and allowing your neshama to tap into the neshama of the Zohar. It's a whole different limud. Therefore, says the Rebbe, that's something that it's unnatural. The world, at least until Mashiach comes, the world schreit Welt. The Welt schreit Welt. And here, you want to go ahead and connect yourself and connect the world and see the world in a way where it's not screaming world. It's not saying Welt is Welt. Says the Rebbe, that koyach, just like it sees Mitzrayim, we needed to be b'chol rega v'rega, so too it's hukva l'moye temidi, says the Rebbe. It needs to be a tomidike. It's every day. Because it's not natural. But it has the koyach, says the Rebbe, to change what's natural. It has a koyach to take a Welt and completely, it's l'chatchila Rebbe. And then the Rebbe says it's another, in that same Nukud, the same Shich, he says another very strong word. He says it compares it just like you see Mitzrayim. He says, just like the Rebbe says a word like this, which is a Kedaya, just this word in itself is a powerful word. It's just like it sees Mitzrayim. We just said it's Yisoik Chazok V'omud B'Tereseinu V'Munaseinu. It's a foundation. Foundation means in everything you build, on top of that foundation, it's impacting whatever you're building. So Yitzis Mitzrayim being a Ben Chodim, that we're not under the Agbolis. The Rebbe says it's not Mitzrayim is a Mitzrayim Aruchni. Even say the Shtalshlus is the Mitzrayim, has its Mitzodim. And Mitzad the Mitzodim of say the Shtalshlus, the Rebbe says Yidden don't have a place to be Chodesh. It's a koyach that the Eibishter said, I am taking you out. Ani b'chvoide v'atzmi. Lo yadei shliach. Says the Rebbe, so Yitzias Mitzrayim impacts us in every area in Torah. Us being a Ben Chodim impacts us in every area in Torah. You learn Torah, or you do something l'Shem Shemayim, or you're doing something b'chol derchecha de'eyu. Whatever you do, you're impacted by the fact that you're a Ben Chodim, you're a free person. You're not tied down to the forces of nature. You're not tied down to Weltishkeit, to Welt, to the worldly, natural forces of the universe. A Yid has a koyach that with your limit Torah, you break through all barriers. Right? So the Rebbe says, so it comes out that Yitzias Mitzrayim affects us in every area in Torah we learn. Practically, what does it mean practically? You're learning Torah. And you want to learn for a half hour straight. And you can't learn a half hour straight without picking up your phone. It means the world is telling you no. You can say yeah. Or you want to be able to go ahead and do a mitzvah or learn Torah or do things and have a life where you have an uplifted life, but yet I'm pulled down by the gashmias, by the chumnias of the world. No matter who we are, what we are, we have a koyach to overcome that. And you have a koyach to be a ben chodim. You want to have an example, something someone is not a ben chodim. You'll ask the Bali Taiva out there, they'll tell you that I'm going to do things that are mimalat habasi. I'll take the drugs. One day it's going to cause me to die, one day to get sick. Nah, I don't care about it. Right now, I'm enjoying it. I don't care about it. Then fast forward 10 years later, and because of all the drugs he took and all the things he did to his body, he's sick, and now he's dying. Now he says, I regret it. How he regrets? He wish he wouldn't have taken it. What's the pshat? So 10 years ago when he did take it, did he then not want to live? Is it only now that he wants to live? Of course, that he wants to live too. But then the rotzen of his wanting to live was completely shut down, was completely locked up and stored away, and was under the influence. What was burning was your desire. And your desire covered up what I really want. What I really want, which is to live, which is my real rotzen, that was covered up. That was somewhere buried deep down. Because that's the nature of a taiva. The nature of a taiva, the nature of a habit, the nature of a desire is that I don't think in the real terms, I think in terms what's negated to me now. What's negated to me now is now I'm enjoying it. Later, when you're taka faced, and then you're taka paying the price, you think about it, and then the real rotzen to want to live comes out. What's the pshat? Then you weren't a ben chayrin. Then you weren't a true ben chayrin. Then you weren't free. You were under the influence and under the forces of your taivas, of your desires, of your habits. So you were locked in prison. Your real rotzen was in prison. Was an osir, was in prison. Every Yid wants to be a ben chayrim, not just begashis, but beruchnias. But sometimes those in Yonim are very deep, buried deep down, and we're not making it. You learn chassidus, it awakens you up. It awakens you. So here the Rebbe says that this is not something natural. That learning chassidus to bring you to a place for you to overcome the Weltishkeit, and awaken within you your neshama, is something which is overcoming the natural, the teva of Welt. That you're a ben chayrin, you're a free person. Every Yid has the ability to be free. Every Yid has the ability to be able to not be under the influence and under the control of Weltishkeit. To whatever that Weltishkeit can be. For each their own. That's something you need to have. Timidi, hukva l'moyed timidi. Hukva l'moyed timidi. It needs to be a moyed timidi. Which is therefore, it's easy, it's nice if I bring about it on a Yutas Kislev. But what are we going to come afterwards? What's going to be tomorrow? What's the next day? We have to realize that we were given, for whatever reason, we were lucky. And we were given the opportunity to learn the deepest inyanim of neshama, the deepest inyanim of the Torah, which the Rabbeim were Moshe Nefesh. Al Rebbe went through true Mesiras Nefesh for this. True Mesiras Nefesh. And he did it so that we can have and we can connect. So we have to be smart. And we have to say, I'm going to come out of a Farbrengen. What am I going to do? I'm going to be Kaveh Eaton. I'm going to make a Seder. I learn a Maimah once a week. I learn it twice a week. I make a Seder in Tanya. One of the big things that we have in Baruch Hashem in our yeshivas is that we all come out. We all know Tanya very well from yeshiva. Until you really learn it. Until you learn it. For some reason, the yeshivas never taught us Tanya right. You have to actually undo it and relearn it again.
First the one that teaches Gemara.
First
the one that teaches Gemara.
The first what?
When it teaches Gemara.
But anyhow, we have, and today you have so many beautiful svarim in it. It's amazing. Make a seder. Say, listen, it's Yutas Kislev today. I'm going to take achlota. I'm going to make a seder that I'm going to learn. Yeah, we start chitas, but I'm going to learn a Pedic a week. Do a Pedic a week. So by next Yutas Kislev, pretty much you finish the whole Tanya, at least the first Kelik of Tanya. I'm going to Pedic a week means I'll put in a half hour and I'm going to go over the Pedic once, twice. I talk it out to myself. I break it down. I write down some points. Learn Tanya. Live with it. And the next year you'll do it again. But remember that it's a Tanya, it's Sidis is what gives us, it's hukva l'mayut midi. And that Mesiras Nefesh that the Alter Rebbe did and experienced and went through, and was Moshe Nefesh. Did it not for himself, he did it for us. It was Mazakeh, thousands and thousands and thousands of Yidden to be able to go ahead and feel and sense and elevate ourselves. And when we learn a Gemara, you learn the Oma Abaya, so ahead to Oma Abaya. He said the Chamsoiva once said, Ton Rabbanon, he said it if he said it for 2 hours. Ton Rabbanon. The Rabbanon in the land. Who the Rabbanon? Who these Rabbanon? It's Heilige Tanoim and Amiroim. L'chaim. Ay, ay, ay. When you talk about the Messias Nevish and the Alter Rebbe, we don't realize the Alter Rebbe wasn't just Messias Nevish for Chassidut. He was also Messias Nevish for the Misnagdim. Chaim.
Let them know.
Let me share with you this. You know that there was the Chassidim, Tamid HaMagid, Kedoshei Elyon. The situation with the Misnagdim Aden was really, really bad. Today there's no Misnagdim. Those days were people, some of them meant to Medaimus and some of them didn't, but it was really, really a tough time. It was a new chassidus, it was a new innovation. You have to know that the world at that time already was just coming off a serious blow with Kachap Shitzvi. So there were those that meant it very serious. This night is very serious. And there were those that enjoyed it, But it was really, really bad. But some of the Isnagdus came from Gedali Yerlim, from the Gedali Yisrael. And at that point, the Chsidische Tzaddikim felt that they needed to take some action. Who do they want to go after? They wanted to go after the Vilna Goyim. The Vilna Goyim's Isnagdus was Chas v'Sholem, not a. But Lemaisa, there was all the Bala Machlokes were using the Vilna Goyim, and it was a very, very big, it was a very difficult time. So they wanted to put a very serious chayim on the Vilna Goyim that would have created and caused a tremendous problem. And they made a shaila in the Himmel if they can do it. And Alter Rebbe refers, when he references the Vilna Goyim, he calls him Ilan Agadol, Goyin HaChosed HaMenuach. Tola Be'ilan Gadol. He was a you have to understand, Vilna Goyim slept 2 hours a night, a half hour every 6 hours. It's normal. But they wanted to make a serious end to it, which they would have been a very, very serious chayim. So they made a shaila in Himmel, and they were mediyah the tzaddikim in Himmel that they can do it if they have the rishus to do it, but on one condition: you need to do it with one of your people needs to be bigger than him in Torah. And as a result of that,
where do we have this story from?
Story was printed on the Rishimis. As a result of that, they needed the Alter Rebbe. At one point, they came to Lozhny. They came looking for the Alter Rebbe. And the Chaverim of the Alter Rebbe referred to the Alter Rebbe as the Litvak. And when they spoke about the Rebbe as the Litvak, it wasn't, by the way, a lot of the Gedele Magid, the Magid himself was Litvak. And the Baron Kalina was Litvak. There was a lot of, the Alter Rebbe was called the Litvak. And so when they asked that, the Elter Chassidim knew when they saw two tzaddikim, they were able to tell two tzaddikim came out of the carriage, and they asked where's the Litvak. They chapped right away. But these are Talmidim and the Magid. And they showed them where to go into the Alter Rebbe's house. And they were hearing, there was going tzaikas. There was going a lot of screaming. And the Alter Rebbe was saying, Nein, Kenes Ishtan. And they told the Alter Rebbe, that is Yeton. Alter Rebbe said there'll be a Chil Hashem, he can do it. A terrible Chil Hashem will come out. And they were screaming. So at some point they screamed, but eben nicht, if you're not going to do it, what the Chil Hashem are coming from dein Mishpach. The Mittler Rebbe was learning in the other room, he fainted. And the Alter Rebbe opened the door, and the Talmidim were leaving, and they turned to the Alter Rebbe and said, we're asking you one more time. Alter Rebbe said, no. And then the Alter Rebbe told the Mittler Rebbe, nicht dir hat mir gemeint. At that point, the Alter Rebbe had one of his children, Moshe, was running around, and the Alter Rebbe came. Moshe goes that he came to the Alter Rebbe rubbed him on his head. And the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe was piled, the Chil Hashem should only be b'chitzeres, not b'pnimis. Because there were all types of rumors later, but those were not emes rumors. But he was piled that the Chil Hashem. But look at the Mesiras Nefesh the Alter Rebbe had, not just Chassidim. Because Alter Rebbe was Etzem. Alter Rebbe was Mesiras Nefesh for bringing Chassidus, but it's not going to be at the expense of creating a Chil Hashem. Shas the Alter Rebbe, going back, this is Tavkuf Nun Tes. I think it was Tavkuf Nun Aleph. This Kitrig of the Alter Rebbe was already brewing for many years. Tavkuf Nun Aleph was a very difficult year. It was a Tavkuf Nun Aleph, Tavkuf Nun Beis, right? Tavkuf Nun Beis. When was the Verleya in it? It was Tavkuf Nun Beis, right? It was some Gedalia Nun Beis, I think it was. Tamach Tzedek was right before Zop Sherenish. So then it was Nun Beis, the Chayei, I think. Yeah. Was that or Nun Aleph? I can't remember. It was 2 or 3, becoming 3 or becoming 2, I can't remember. But no, Kubi was even becoming 2 because when the Verleya passed away, Alter Rebbe brought the Tzemach Tzedek into his room. And the way from what I remember, it's brought from the Frierdiker Rebbe, it's brought down that sometimes the Frierdiker Rebbe would wake up in the middle of the night and cry, Mama, Mama. And his mother would tell him, Shh, Mendel, the Zaydida. When the Alter Rebbe was, and at that time, that's when the Verleya, Erev Rosh Hashanah called in Rebbetzin Verleya, the Tzemach Tzedek's mother, then that's going back to Tavkuf Nun Aleph, called in the Ten Chassidim and told them and said that she's going to take the Chiluf. At that time, the Alter Rebbe sent the Kapan to Reb Nachat Shenobla, and Reb Nachat Shenobla didn't take any, there's a mice, he didn't take any Pidyonis until the Shliach came. And then the Tzemach Tzedek, the Reb Nachat Shenobla went to the mikveh, and in the mikveh he said to Hey Chiluf. Later, the Alter Rebbe said that I could have done that myself. I was hoping that he'll be able to do more than that. The Chiluf Abba can link by it. Fast forward, Tavkuf Nun Tes. I just saw this guy that put yesterday. I saw this. The Bnei Bayis of the Alter Rebbe was in a terrible state. They were very tzibrochen, tremendously and very afraid. The Tzemach Tzedek went every day to his mother's cave and said the whole Tehillim with a minyan of Siddim every day by the Alter Rebbe's cave. He was then 9 years old. Tzemach Tzedek was 9 years old then. Tavkuf Nun Tes. He was born Erev Rosh Hashanah, Tavkuf Mem Tes, right? This is he was 9 years old. Every day he was going to his mother's cave. The only one that wasn't broken, says state, was Rebbetzin Rivka, the Alter Rebbe's mother. The Alter Rebbe's mother was still alive. And she told him, don't be afraid, is a Zana Yeshua. And the night before Yutas Kislev, not the night, I think Mot Shabbos Vayishlach, the Rebbetzin Rivka said, as they were Mediyami, my father, my Zayde was Mediyami, as their vok was in the Gula. The Rebbetzin Rivka was the one who held strong. But the Alter Rebbe went with Mesiras Nefesh. Let me share with you another interesting story that happened. L'chaim. The Alter Rebbe stayed by the Maggid. I don't remember if it was a year and a half or 2 years. I can't remember. He would go and come back. He was most of the time those 8 years by the Maggid. And one of his trips, he stopped off in Koretz. He was on his way going back from Lozhny back to Mezrich, and he stopped off in Koretz. And there he spent the Shabbos by the Pinchas Koretz. The Pinchas Koretz saw the Alter Rebbe, and said to him, "Geglust." He wanted Alter Rebbe to remain by him. He did not. He saw this Talmud over here, so he did everything he can to try to get the Alter Rebbe to stay by him. And he wasn't successful. The Alter Rebbe was so strong-minded, and he was very mekushit to his Rebbe, and he was not leaving his Rebbe in his Nishimagi. So the Pinchas Koretz had told the Alter Rebbe, you know what, I'll make you a deal. How's this? If you stay by me, I'll teach you Sichas Oifes, Sichas the Kolim, Sichas Malachi Ashoris. I'll teach you how to navigate through all the Hicholis L'mayla. I'll teach you even sichas the column, palm trees talking. You'll know exactly what the birds are saying in the morning. I'll teach you the languages. I'll teach you Maaseh Bereishis and Maaseh Merkava. It's a pretty good offer. Pretty good offer.
What was he expecting in return?
To be my Talmud. The Pinchas Koretz, you have to understand, was from the Gedele Talmidim of the Maggid. Ad Kedei Kach that of the Talmudei Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov. Ad Kedei Kach that he did not understand why the Maggid took over. He held that he should take over. Again, these are, it's not this, you have to understand, it's not Shaykh, but the Tzaddikim Gaiva. These are Tzaddikim Kedosh Elgin. Tzaddikim Meflog. And he saw the Alter Rebbe, and he saw who this, and he wanted Alter Rebbe to be by him. So the Alter Rebbe said to him like this: "Thank you so much. Agresia shekayach, dank. It's a meritic offer, but all your offer doesn't turn me on. Doesn't turn me on. Ich bin interessiert in een Sache, in een oid milvader. Und das lerne ich best in Mitzrich. The Mele, a very nice offer, sehr schön, in Welt Amerika, aber ich bin interessiert in einem Milvader und das lerne ich best by Maggid. And with that, he departed, he said his face in the Sholem, and he left, and that's it. Oh, listen. Comes to the Maggid. Maggid calls in the Alter Rebbe. The Maggid loved the Alter Rebbe via Zun. Like a trial. The Maggid said, Ich bin zu ihm via Tate, und zu mir via Zun. The Kiruv, the non-kite, zwischen und der Ave, was the Maggid Mezrich. It's a brief, I don't know if you ever saw the brief from Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchever. He writes to Rabbi Avram, Rabbi Kodesh Rabbi Avram Kaliska. Later, Rabbi Avram Kaliska got into a big machlekes between him and Alter Rebbe. It was a bitter machlekes. Later, he went at the straw with the Mendel Vitebsk. Yeah. So that later they turned a very big. So the Rabbi Yitzchak writes to him that this that you say that the Rebbe had a moedik yachas with the Mendel Vitebsk, I didn't see. But the Chayei gesehen is. As the Keshe was the Magid that gehad mit the Pnei Zalmin. When Azar saw it, and when we are tatted so we are so saying. Das habe ich hier gesehen. That's what it's a printed letter. Yeah, but it's talking about the Magid. This is the Magid. He didn't learn. Stay, but I'm saying. Yeah, but no, it wasn't. He wasn't the Tata because Bashet wasn't there. When I Tata, he was his Rebbe. He was the Baal Shem was the Zayda through the Magid. The Magid, right. Yeah. So when the Alter Rebbe came to Mezrich, the Mezrich Magid told him, "I know the offer you were offered. I want you to know that I was a little nervous. I can't say I wasn't nervous, but I'm very, very thankful how to was dog event. And as a result of that, says Magatim, ich mit dir allein lernen, yichudi elo yichudi tato. Was das Sacha Tifere, from the alle Tifkeiten was the Pinchas Koretz wanted to offer. And you think about it, what Yichud Eloh Yichud Eloh Yichud Eloh is talking about the Eivish is Yichud in the world, wie das in der Stadt, said Lamaila. That was the mice. I once said, I don't know, I mean, I can't tell you if it's Emes or not, but Yesh Loim, Ula Yesh Loim. That I just remember reading in the with brought down, I think the Figure brings on this Maisa, that the Chudi Tato, Chudi Tato was a far more greater limud than everything that Pinchas Koretz had taught him. The limud of Yechudi Chudi Tato, Chidis learned us up. It does in ganzen Hecher from Welt. It's the Ebisches Yichud, wie der Ebisches Yichud mit Zad, wie es Heche vom Welt, und ein Yichud, wie es in Welt. The schwerste Inyonim. In order for the Alter Rebbe to be able to be Zoiche, in order for the Alter Rebbe to be Mekabel from the Maggid of Mizrich, from Baal Shem Tov, or to der Torah from Chudi Yilachud Atah, he had to first go through this challenge. Why? Think about this. What did the Alter Rebbe tell him? What did the Alter Rebbe tell him? The Alter Rebbe said to the Pinchas Karatz that you want to teach me incredible Inyan. Sichas Malachidach Shabbos. You know what it means? You know the language of Malachim?
No, we don't.
Yeah. You want to tell me we know a couple of words. You want to tell me the sichas of Hecholis, how to navigate the Hecholis Lamaila? Is that what you want to tell me? Nehirin Lishvila L'Rekiya, like Shvilim Na'adoy, Shmuel said. Teach him all the Shvila L'Rekiya, all the navigation Lamaila. He wants ready to teach him Maisa Merkava. Maisa, das ist alles in Yonim von Welt. Bei der Alte Rebbe, das ist nicht gewinnt, he was not interested in Welt. He was interested in Nishvelt, in the Einoid Luvadoi. He was a turn-off for the Alte Rebbe. But the Maggid told the Alte Rebbe, for you to be able to learn the Emissar Einoid Luvadoi, you had to give up the greatest offer of Welt. And when you can show that you don't want that Welt, Ruchnis, aber es ist alles Chelik von der Stahlschluss. Ich würde die Lose Heche von der Stahlschluss. Gott Heche von der Stahlschluss. You had to first give up and show that you don't have. You don't learn Yechudi Yitata because it's good and Geschmack. You have to earn it. When the earning it was, nothing else is going to turn me on. I'm not interested in the Welt. What he told the Pinchas Karatz is, you're giving me things, you're offering me something, that's an enhancement of Welt. Like you said, ich will das euch nicht. Ich will dir allein, ich will dein Einheit Mavadi will. Maggid said, now you said that, that was your introduction. That was your pathway to be now the Rebbe of Ad Biz Mashiach had kommen von Megala sein, die Yichud von der Eberste in Welt. Aber das ist genommen Messias Nefesh. Genommen Medig Messias Nefesh. And the impact it had in the Welt.
So this is Zeis HaTorah? Megala is Zeis HaTorah? This is the...
Mitzvah Megala Zeis HaTorah. Mitzvah Megala Zeis HaTorah is Bechal. Torah has Soid, but this is, the Rebbe's Magu, this is more than just Tam Torah has Soid. The Rebbe said, this is Etzem. The Rebbe said, that's what Chassidus, you can fight you up. You can learn Al Pi Kabbalah, you can learn Al Pi Pshat, you can learn Al Pi Drush, Al Pi Sod, because Limud Chassidus is Bechal, is the Etzem. It's the Etzem HaHecher Inyan. Chaim L'Chaim. Chaim. I want to share with you two stories. So with the Alter Rebbe, that one happened with me. One happened with a Chabad of mine. But the Agdama, it's interesting. You know, Baruch Hashem, we're sometimes if you something the mile of Chisor, you know, the mile that you never saw the world out there, the Chiddush of a bigger world out there. Many of you probably, many of you have, some of you have.
There's another world out there?
There's another world out there. I have seen it a little bit because I grew up with them. I grew up. I was a neighbor with the Vision Rebbe, and so I grew up a little bit. I grew up with it, and it's very interesting. You learn to appreciate the huge contrast. The huge contrast. And it's chas v'shalom it's not to put them down, it's just to show you the difference. By the Rebbe, you saw that the Alter Rebbe, all the way down to the Rabbeim, Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid, the Befrat, the Alter Rebbe, down to the 7 Rabbeim, it wasn't the pshat that the Alter Rebbe was the Alter Rebbe and Tzemach Tzedek, and now you have your Rebbe, and he's going to inspire you with the old stories of the old. It was one that you see how the Rabbeim work in unison. You see how the Rabbeim all working together. The Alter Rebbe and the Rebbe and everyone, all the Rabbeim in between, it's all one, they were all coming through the Rebbe. It doesn't exist like that in other Kreisen. It doesn't, in the other Kreisen, you know, the modern Rayim, versteht sich, he's the first, he's there, he was a great tzaddik and great this, and he was the Gdil Tamidim from the Maggid, he met Baal Shem Tov. But he's not, we have to learn modern Rayim also, of course, versteht sich, you know, but it's not that he is being expressed through the current Rebbe. It doesn't, I didn't see like that in other places. By the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe it's like he's living. He's living through the Rebbe. The Tzemach Tzedek is living. The Mittel Rebbe is living through the Rebbe. It wasn't just in the way, just the fact of the Torah of the Rebbeim. It was the kesher between the Rebbeim. It was like It's like you're able to tap it with your finger. Okay, I wasn't there then, but there was a Farbrengen with the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said, "We should stand up." The Alter Rebbe just walked in. Just the whole Yachaz Rebbe with the Frierdiker Rebbe, with the other Rebbeim, it was one camp, All it expressed itself through the Rebbe. So I have a Chava who I have two Chaverim who were in Russia, Tafshin Nun, and I think they were in Rostov, maybe Leningrad, I can't remember where they were. And it was Chav Dalet, they were there in the winter. It was Chav Dalet Teva, so they decided they're going to go to the Alter Rebbe's oil in Hadich. These are two Chaverim. One of them was Dovel Butman. The other Chav was Ruvinu. Two Chaverim. And they went to Hadich. It was in the winter. It was Schnee given, as to be, as you have snow in Russia, the Heiche Schnee. And they went to Hadich, and when they were at the oil in Hadich, they were Masoyer, they had Masoyeris to be Maschel HaMesayim Shulchan Aruch and be Maschel HaMesayim Tanya. Tanya they had, not a problem to be Maschel HaMesayim Shulchan Aruch. They found a Chelik Vav Shulchan Aruch, but they couldn't find a Chelik Aleph. So they were able to be Messiah in the Shulchan Aruch, but they didn't have the Yehudim and Taimah, the first Shivim Shulchan Aruch. They didn't have that. They couldn't. They looked high and low. They couldn't find it. Today there's already the whole oil with the whole rebuilt. They have all the Svarim, a library. But in those days it wasn't. In those days, you found the Favov with the Sefer Dor. They found the Chelik Vav. They couldn't find the Chelik Aleph. So they ended up making a siyum on Shulchan Aruch, and they just said that next time we'll come back. This was on a Thursday, or maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday, or whatever day it was. On Friday, they go back to Leningrad, I think it was. I think it was Leningrad either. Petersburg, Leningrad. And there, Velvo spoke to his father, Erev Shabbos, and told his father that we were by the Alter Rebbe's oil. And his father somehow thought that he said that there were Maschul HaMesayim Tanya, Maschul HaMesayim Shulchan Aruch. The connections then in Russia were very not clear, by the way. This is 1990. I was in Russia then also. It was very unclear. So his father thought he said they were Maschul HaMesayim. So he went by the Rebbe for dollars on Sunday. He tells the Rebbe that my son and his Chava went to Chavdal Tevis last week. They went to Hadich and they were Maschel Mesayim Tanya, Maschel Mesayim Shulchan Aruch. The Rebbe says, Ashod mit nicht angefangen Shulchan Aruch. Ashod mit nicht angefangen Shulchan Aruch. Ashod mit nicht Maschel gewesen. So Mullah Button was looking at the Rebbe like I just said they were Maschel. But the Rebbe said that. Then the Rebbe said, no, that was not from a zweite Gelegenheit. We'll have to do it another time. He's even more. But he didn't. He was smart. He left. Anyway, he goes back home and he waits for Velvo to call him. Somehow he spoke to Velvo over the next couple of days. He says, Velvo, what's going on? So the Rebbe told me that it's assured you weren't maschel. So he says, yeah, I told you I was not maschel. So I thought you told me you were maschel, Shulchan Aruch and Shulchan Aruch. I didn't hear you. So he says, no, I didn't. So he told him that the Rebbe said, no, but definitely not tzedek Gelegenheit. So Ruvi and Velvo said, we're taking a train right now. The next hour we're going to Hadich and we're doing it. We're not going to wait till the next tzedek Gelegenheit to be wet. It's gleich for. So within the next couple of hours, they got a train. And back, it was a 12, 15-hour train ride. Who knows how long it was? A long train ride. They had to Ukraine from Leningrad, a long ride. Maybe it was more. They went right back And this time they had a Shulchan Aruch and they were masked. And before Shabbos they get back, Vilvel tells his father, Mullah Butman goes by the Rebbe, next Sunday, and tells the Rebbe now with Agris Shmechel that they went back and they were masked the Shulchan Aruch, and the Rebbe smiled. The Rebbe was very zufrieden, and he gave $1 for the son and $1 for Ruth. Shlich Mitzvah will be the shlich to give it over. This happened in 1990. Mullah Butman forgot to give the $1. He gave it to Velvel, and Ruby's $1 he forgot about it. Never gave it to Ruby. Fast forward to about Tafshin Samach Ches, 18 years, 19 years later. Ruby at that time was living in Atlanta, and he was moving then from Atlanta back to Florida. He was opening a Chabad house in Florida. It was a very big move, and it was a very stressful thing. It was a Mishkan Pashta Zach, leave the place. And so he and his wife both wrote to the Rebbe a letter. Each one wrote to their own without even discussing what they're writing to the other. And his wife went on Friday, and Ruby came. She flew on Friday and gave it to the oil, and then Ruby was going to come Sunday. Ruby said that they both wrote. They didn't even discuss what they both wrote, but later they looked over each one's letter, and they both asked the Rebbe to give him a moshesdike answer. A muchesdike answer. It should be an answer that you can see the muchesdike answer. They both threw you, maybe different l'shem, but they both asked the Rebbe that. Ruby's waiting is at the oil Sunday, and suddenly he sees his Chava Velvel Butman. And Velvel says, Ruby, I'm looking all over you. I called your wife. I asked you, I tried getting a hold of you. I can't get a hold of you. I called you. Your wife said you about the oil. What do you say? Ruby says, what are you trying to get a hold of me for? What's your problem? He has an envelope for him. He says, my father called me up. Right, I don't know if it was Matzah Shabbos or Edom Shabbos or right on Sunday, I don't remember what it was. And my father says to me, I just found an envelope. And it says Ruvinu. And this envelope was $1 that I was supposed to give Ruvi 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. And I forgot about it. And I just saw it right now in my drawer, in my desk. I said, oh yeah, I never gave it to him. So I called you, and Velvel was running around town to try to find Ruby. He's by the oil. He's by the oil asking the Rebbe for a muchesdike answer, and here he gets the $1. Ruby told me that I asked later Mully Butman, I asked him, what's going on? Mully said, I want you to know, this $1 was in my drawer that I opened I opened it up 1,000 times. It's in my drawer on my desk. I never saw it. I suddenly see this $1. See this letter. It's a mice. I versteht sich, he got his answer. And I told Ruby, when Ruby told me the mice, I told him that I should have a mice like that. And at the end of the day, I got a mice like that too. Happened to me. But that will be another time. A few months later, I had a similar story. $1 that I lost many, many years ago, and at the right moment it showed up. It's a fascinating thing. Okay. The second story I'll share with you with Alter Rebbe. This story happened with me. I was in Minsk, Tafshin Nun Aleph. I was in Minsk, the summer of Nun Aleph. And I had a Chebeman there by me, he was my interpreter. His name was Sasha Lipschitz. He was my interpreter. He spoke English. He was a Shomer Shabbos. He stayed by me every Shabbos in my house, my apartment, in one of these apartment buildings in Russia, Minsk. And all my, with the older people, everyone 40 and above spoke Yiddish, but the younger kids, they spoke English, or those who didn't speak English spoke whatever in Russian. So he was my interpreter. The one day he comes to shul. One day, it was towards the end of the summer. It was already towards the end of Chodesh Av. And I was planning to go that week to Kiev. From Kiev, I was going to go to Hadich, I was going to go to Nezhin, I was going to go to Mezhebush, I was going to make my rounds. In those days in Russia, by the way, I can get a taxi driver to drive me all day, one box of cigarettes, one box of American cigarettes. Understand, in those days, an average salary was 250 ruble a month. And it was about 45 ruble to the dollar. So let's say I had a whole league of a bunch of young boys playing basketball, right? So I would give them soda. They didn't have that musik, drinking hot soda when you play. They didn't have, but I would go and I would buy out the whole store of soda. Pepsi cost me a penny. For $1, I got 100 Pepsis. I'm just saying how. So when I flew first, when I would go first class on a trip on a train, a 12-hour train, it cost me a couple of dollars. It cost me much. I was good friends with there was a lady there. She was like the president, and I told her I was the mayor of San Francisco. So I had a special Protescue. Anytime I wanted something, she got me tickets whenever I wanted. It was. Anyhow, she was in charge of the train station. She was one of the. Anyway, so I was planning that week. I was supposed to leave. I think I was going to leave at Monday night. Yeah, Monday night. Sunday morning, the Sasha comes to me, and he's crying. He's a 22-year-old guy. He's crying. Sasha, why are you crying? So my mother just beat me up. I said, what do you mean your mother beat you up? What do you mean? She says, yeah, she took the stick, the broom, started banging me. I said, why don't you just take the broom and break it then? But then I chap. He says, and he tells me I was meditating in Spal when he told me it was a lesson that I learned. He said to me, you don't understand, my mother's in pain. She thinks that Judaism, Yiddishkeit is a bunch of wacko. I should hurt her more. Which I was meditating in Spal from that answer. And it taught me a tremendous wow. I said, it's unbelievable. I said, yeah. Anyway, he says to me, you don't understand, I own nothing. Whatever I have, one pair of pants and one pair of shirts. He says, this belongs to my mother. My mother, and he comes and tells my mother said that if I don't throw out my Yiddishkeit by Thursday, she's throwing everything out of the house. She's throwing me away. Or by Friday, she's throwing it out of the house. And then, so I said, Sasha, I'm going tomorrow night. I'm going to Hadich. I'm going to Kiev. I'm going to the Oilim of the Rabbeim. Why don't you come with me? Well, we'll daven by the Alter Rebbe, we'll daven by the Mittler Rebbe, we'll daven by the Rabbeim. She said, okay, sounds like a good idea. The next Monday, he came in the morning, he told me the situation got worse. Sunday, she didn't give him the ultimatum. Monday, she gave him the ultimatum. But if you don't get it out if you're not throwing it out by Friday, I'm throwing all your stuff out. I'm throwing you out of the house. She said to him, I'd rather you be an infidel than being a religious Jew. Let me still remember these words. So I said to him, listen, Sasha, we're going out to, you know what? I didn't even know how to handle it. I couldn't, what am I supposed to tell this guy? Let's go to that bay. So anyway, Monday, we took the train Monday night. And we left the place at 6 o'clock, 12-hour train ride. We left at 7 o'clock. We're arriving in Kiev at 7 in the morning. And from there, we're going to we're going to go to the Chabad house, we'll have him there. Then we'll take a taxi. We got a taxi out of range to take us to Hadich. That was our first move. Our first 4-hour drive, by the way. 4-hour drive from Kiev to Hadich. Anyhow, so he comes and that's it. And he forgot about his sodas, and we came there and we come to Kiev. And from Kiev, we go right away. We go to the Chabad house. They set us up a car. And by 10 o'clock or 12, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, we're on the way to Hadich, a 4-hour drive. We come to Hadich. It was maybe about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We went to the mikveh. There's a little teichel right next to it. We went to the mikveh over there. There's an old lady. She was in charge of the oil of the Alter Rebbe. And she opened it up. And I told Sasha, talk to the Rebbe and told the Alter Rebbe all you tzara. Tell him you need the Alter Rebbe to help you. And he spoke. I still remember him standing and he was meditating. He was talking to the Rebbe. I told him, talk to him in any language you want. He'll understand. And then we learned the Perek Tanya in the oil. We were there till 7-8 o'clock. Till 7 o'clock. I think. And then we left. Then we left. And then the next day already we went to Nezhin, we went to Anapoli, then we went to Mezhebush, and then on Thursday night we're heading back. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night we're heading back. We were there for 3 days. Heading back to Minsk. I remember the moment I stepped on, he forgot about all the tzaras, the whole trip. The moment I stepped onto that train, I took the man from like tzaras and he fell into a depression. And then those days, you remember the Walkmans? You remember the Walkman? Today it's then later became MP and came to the MP3. Then it was Walkmans. You had these. I had a Walkman. I said, you know what? Listen to my Walkman. Listen to my Mohammed David, whatever you want to listen to. And and I can't deal with you. You're too heavy for me. I told him. I'm going to go to sleep. It was by the way, the best night's sleep in Russia was on the train. There was no mosquitoes, and it was Chayei, Mishloftas are good. You had the first class room. I got for my $2.50. It was a Mechayei. Okay. So first class was 2 beds per room. Then there's a coupe, 4 beds a room, and then you had the open place. The open place, you have to understand, if you're open place in Russia, you go to sleep, you wake up, you may not find your shoes, you may not find your pants, you certainly won't find your wallet. So you know what I mean? But I had my own private place. It was good. Anyhow, I come back home and he mamish falls back. I remember we arrived in Minsk and he tells me, he says, Shia, I don't know what's going to be. I may be homeless by tonight. So I told him, you're homeless, he comes to by me in my place. He anyway come for Shabbos. Anyhow, long story short, he calls me a few hours, he calls me a shik time later when he goes and he says, you don't understand, my parents are at home, they left me a note. And the note they left me it said that they're very sorry whatever they did to me, and that I can stay and I can remain and do what I want, and everything is fine, and they apologize. They'll explain me later. So he called me already during the daytime, telling me he doesn't even know what happened, but he does know that the miracle happened. I told him I'm waiting for Shabbos. Meanwhile, I'm making a big kiddush. We're going to go dance. We're going to Farbrengen. He comes back. He comes to Shabbos and he tells me, what was the story? This is the story. What happened? Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon. This was while we were at the oil of the Alter Rebbe. While I was there at the oil. His parents got a call from his brother who lives in America. My brother never calls him all the week. And my brother never calls, at that point, it was 12 o'clock at night for him, for the brother. It was 6 o'clock in Russia. No, forget, it was earlier. It was, by him, the brother was in the middle of the daytime, early morning, late morning, early afternoon. And in Russia, it was 6, 7 o'clock. My brother never calls that time of the day. I never calls in the middle of the week. And he calls my parents out of the blue. He was living in Hartford, West Hartford. And my parents never discussed, Afghanistan Russians. The real Russians they're as rigid as you'll get. My parents never discussed my business with my brother. My brother's not a religious guy. But my parents said suddenly at this phone call, my parents told my brother what's going on with me and that they're very unhappy. So my brother tells my parents, listen, you're coming to America. In America, a religious Jew is not looked as crazy. Also, you're coming to America. In America, you don't mix into what your kids want to do. You let your kids do what they want. You're no longer the balabas. You're coming to America in a few months, so leave them alone. And he says, which was, my brother is a fryer person, doesn't know Shankas is a Yiddish guy, doesn't know Shankas. Suddenly she said, it was mamish, it was like Vayiftach Hashem. And then it just came out. The bigger problem was, they were mekabelit. Case closed. Mekabelit. And they left me a note, they knew I'm coming on Friday, I have nothing to worry about. When did that happen? That happened while we were at the oil of the Alter Rebbe. So Rabbi say, Baruch Hashem, we open Rabbeim, unser Rebbe, we open the Rebbe. I wrote the letter to the Rebbe, I never got an answer, but I wrote that message to the Rebbe. But we have answers. We go wherever you go to the oil. You get answers. You get murdered answers. It's Meisim B'chol Yoim. Meisim B'chol Yoim. Because Kislev is left, Chassidus left. True, with Taka, so in some ways it's more challenging today, but that's able to Eibishter. But as the more challenging it is, the more greater the Nisima. The more greater the Giluyima. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. No, I think it cost me $1. I think it cost me $1. Maybe not Yeah. By the whole store. By the whole store. He ran all the cameras. He was the master. Casino one time found the truck. He had the guys working at that. He had all the pepper. There's no pepper last 3 days. That's right. Chaim Levi. Chaim, you ever speak to Moshe or you never speak to him? Hey, once in a while? I'm not mistaken, I think that when I had my building in Detroit, you saw my shul, right? That building used to be a radio station. It was a radio station, that building. The radio station. That's why the towers are there. The radio station. And it was a miracle. Motzei Rosh Hashanah. We were then renting in a small little, in the JCC. The JCC, the building they knocked down now, so it's not there now, but it was the JCC. And we used to rent over there a room. That's where our shul was, smaller shul. This is going back in 2000, in 1995, 6, 7, 8, 2000, 2001, 2002. 2003, it was Motzei Rosh Hashanah. Maybe 2004 even, 2003, 2004, Motzei Rosh Hashanah. And a guy asks me if I can give him a ride to his house. I said, sure. So I drove him to his house, and I drove to the house, and I see on this building, it's a 15,000 square foot building, and I see a for sale sign. So I dropped him off, and I flew home. Now, it's a nest. Detroit is a Litvish city, so the Litvish keeps 72 minutes. So I was the first one to be driving to see. And I knew that this is going to be a building that everyone's going to go after. And I said, I want to get this, but I had no clue I'm going to get the money, but I said, that's it, I'm buying this building. So I flew home. Before Abdullah, I called a friend of mine. His name is Chuck Shepard. Chuck was a guy he was like an askin in the city, that anyone who wants, any meister that wanted to get a building, for example, would go through him. He was that kind, a good friend of mine. So I called him right away. Just to be able to, he was like the middle guy. Who do you talk to? Where you have to speak to a realtor. Who's their realtor? He's the guy. He was the guy that So I called him up. I was the first one to call him. I said, Chuck, I just saw this thing on sale. I'm buying that building. And I said, if anyone calls you, I was the first one to call. He told me that within 20 minutes, he got about 5 other calls from 5 other meisters. But he told them that Werner from Lubavitch, he's here first, he calls. Anyhow, they were asking $1.8 million for the building. And I sent an offer for $500,000. It was almost embarrassing, but I did it. I versteht, they didn't answer me. They didn't even answer me. They didn't even answer me. I thought at least I'll use it as a negotiating, so that's 1.5. I say 500,000, I'll come back at 1.2, 1.3. If I say $1 million, I'll come back 1.5. So I figured I'll take a lower number, and they didn't even answer me. But I had one big mazel. Before they even answered me nothing, I already arranged where I'm getting my money from. I went to a close friend of mine, to one of my someone who was a gevir in the city, whose father was a very big gevir. He had a kasher with me. He was a chatzi mispal by me. He had a kasher with me. I told him I told him that if he could speak to his father, if his father can give me help me for the shul. At this point, I don't even know how much it's going to be. All right, because I spoke to him first, and all the moises that were going to get the money for their buildings was going to go through the same guy.
Also, going to go to the same gevir.
This gevir, yeah, because this guy's father was buying buildings. Every moises got a building from his father. That was a very big gevir, and every moises got buildings from him.
Is that one of the private planes?
Huh? Private money. It's private money. His father was a very well.
He's the one with the private plane.
No, that's Zekel. No, this is Mir. Anyhow, that's Zekel. So here he so a nest that no one else was bidding on the building. Because I was bidding, no one knew what's going on between me. They don't know that I'm getting it, so there was no bidding. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Yutas Kislev. I resubmitted an offer and I was debating. They didn't even answer me $500,000. Maybe let me ask now. Maybe I'll go. Let me ask if I say $800,000, make it a little more mechabedik. Maybe I say $900,000. Like this, 1.8, it'll come down to 1.3 maybe. I said, no. Why am I doing that? I'm going to submit. I know there's no one offering. I'm going to submit my $500,000 again. And they want. They'll come back. Like this, maybe they'll come back for $1 million, $1.1 million. So I submitted the same thing over again. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Yutas Kislev. But I think it was Yutas Kislev. The answer that for sure I got back on Hey Tavis. They accepted my offer. $500,000.
Wow.
Building is a beautiful shul. It's a big shul. And I paid it cash. I got from his father. I got $500,000. I paid up the whole building. Then I think another $500,000. Another $500,000 to redo to renovate the building. But whatever the case is, Hey Davis. But if I'm not mistaken, I think I sent it on Yutas. That's my life. I think that yeah.
Is the building the same size?
Yeah, the building is the same size. I gutted out the whole building and built
50,000 square feet. It's a nice size.
It's about 12,000 square feet. Yeah, 12,000. It's a nice size. It's a big size, big building. Big building, beautiful building. Was macht der Tate? Geht er arbeitet in Yeshiva?
He sleeps in Shabbos.
Oh, he sleeps in Shabbos?
Yeah, he can walk back on Shabbos.
Still has his office the same place in your Meow upstairs? His office is still there? Yeah?
Has a chauffeur.
That's very expensive. Everyone's I think it's a pension.
Yeah. put the and the stream. Yeah, shukra.